Hello? Bueller? Get it on?
All right, guys, this is Robert, BP News. We are watching this unfolding tragedy. Once again, another protester has been shot. I was sitting there watching the footage, and it looks very dubious. You kind of can't really tell, but it looks almost like the ICE agent shot first. But it looked to me like the guy was on his face with, 4 or 5 ICE agents on the top, and his hands, I saw his hands on the ground. But the way the clip shows it, it's really hard to say. He could have had something in his hand, but, it looks really bad. Everybody's going to interpret their own political way. At this point, the protests were already ramping up in Minneapolis. This is only going to just pour gasoline on the fire. This is absolutely crazy timing. I can see violence breaking out today in a big way because of this. Like I said, you can't really tell. It almost looks completely like he was executed. I mean, that's the way it looks. But he could have been on his face with a gun in his hand. I can't really see anything. I looked really carefully. I saw 2 different angles. There's 2 different views of it. And I still couldn't see anything in terms of a gun in his hand. I did hear what sounded like the first shot, and then one ICE agent pulling back very quickly, and then other ICE agents is all backing off and then all shooting. So there was one first initial shot. One ICE agent runs back really quick, and then the other ones pull back, and then they start shooting. So, it's just so hard to be able to discern from what the 2 scenes of footage that I could see. There's one on the AP. There's a view. I can't really show it here because, it's probably going to be affecting the stream itself. But you can go to the AP News website, and you can see the one angle from the front view. And then there's another angle from our Telegram channel that we have up where you can see it from the back, the other side, from the side of the shooting. So you can see 2 different angles. I think that this is going to cause huge unrest, if not riots. This is where it's going, I think. Minneapolis Mayor Fry says, quote, "I'm done being told that our community members are responsible for the vitriol in our streets. I'm done being told that our local elected officials are solely responsible for turning down the temperature." I'm just telling you what I see coming, guys. What I see coming from this is huge amounts of unrest in this location. Now, it's possible it could spread the way things are going. This was absolutely beyond anything that, when people see this, they're going to interpret their own way. Like I said, you're going to have liberals interpreting it one way. You're going to have conservatives interpreting it another way. I personally, in an unbiased view, I'm looking at what I see, and I don't really see the guy with a gun. I can't see him in any way having a gun. It looked to me, from what I could see, like there was a shot that rang out. As the shot rang out, the ICE agent pulls back really quickly. One ICE agent, there was like 7 or 8 people, 8 other agents on top of the guy. He's on his face. And then from one angle, it looks like he sits up on his back hind legs, like he kind of sits back. And that's when you hear the shot ring out, and then he falls forward on his face. I don't know. It just, when people really start looking at this video, I think it's going to have an effect on the mindset of people that are watching this. And like I said, on both sides, it's going to cause greater division. I don't see this as being a cut and dry, just like the George Floyd thing. The George Floyd situation happened, and it was left up to interpretation, right? People were like, well, he was on fentanyl, and he died of a heart attack, and the officer had his knee on his neck, and he basically couldn't breathe. Some people said he couldn't breathe because of the officer's stranglehold on his neck. And then the other part of the country said, no, he was on fentanyl. This is the conservative part. He was on fentanyl. He had an overdose, and he couldn't breathe because his heart failed while the officer was on top of him. So, like I said, you're going to have two different perspectives. It's kind of in that realm of not knowing because you can't really tell. And everybody's going to be interpreting it according to their political view. I would say it's very nebulous in the sense of not knowing because you can't really see it. Now, if they happen to show some really close-up footage, or somebody gets a real close-up visual of what actually happened right as the gunshots went off, well, then that might abate some of this tension. But if they can't prove, and they're just taking the word of, well, this guy, this guy shot, because what I'm hearing is some people are saying, well, the guy on the ground had a gun, and he wouldn't let go of his weapon. That's what I heard. But I couldn't see a weapon. Like I said, if I can see a closer visual of what actually happened there, that would be great. That would alleviate some of the pressures that I think that are being felt on both sides. But if you're just going to take a political stance and say, "Oh yeah, the guy had a gun," that's just because you want to try to say the ICE agents are guiltless, without any real visual proof. You have to have some kind of evidence to support your point. If you're looking at this video on both angles, like I said, there's two different angles. There's two different visual angles of this shooting. The one angle that we have is on our Telegram channel. You can see it if you want to look at it. And you don't see any blood or anything. You can't see it actually hit him because there's like 7 or 8 guys on top of this guy. And the shot rings out while they're all on top of him. So this doesn't happen where you can actually see it happen. You just kind of see his legs and his hands. You can kind of see between the legs a little bit of what he's struggling. And then what it looks like to me is that he's being hit in the head continually by one ICE officer. He's just being punched in the head it looks like he has something in his hand. The ICE officer has something in his hand, and he's just punching him in the head, and then the other guys are on top of him. And then it looks like he sits up, or he kind of sits back on his knees, and that's when you hear the shot ring out, boom. And then he falls forward on his face. And then all the ICE agents get off of him at that point. They all stand up and they kind of back off, and then they shoot again. You can hear more shots, like they're shooting him while he's on his face. After he falls on his face, and the other ICE agents back off, then you hear more shots. So you hear the first shot, which people said, this could be because the ICE agent said he had a gun. But like I said, I couldn't see a gun. If any of you out there saw really close-up footage of this, the reason I'm saying that this is bad is that this could literally cause riots. Anyways, I'm going to promote this. I haven't told anybody that. I just wanted to get the first part of this out here. Let's get this. Let me get this out on social media here.
That seems like that was. They're tear gassing now. We can see tear gas. I smell it. I feel it in the air. Are you afraid at all? We're not afraid because, one, black people, we're not afraid of this because we've been experiencing this for generations. But secondly, I'm not afraid because I know that Minnesotans will stand together and protect each other and make sure that we're all safe. I'm not afraid because I know that this is a part of the revolution not being televised. We're not we can hear those explosions.
And
We're not afraid. We're going to continue to keep our people safe because one Minnesota united is how we're going to do this. We're going to show the world that we are indeed a model city.
let's see if we can get some footage on this.
The government is going to break the backs of Minnesotans who love their neighbors as the Lord requests.
Tommy, how does this?
What are they saying here?
Right now, that's just kind of what's going on is protesters are moving forward, figuring out exactly where they're able to go now.
All right, Sammy, we do appreciate your reporting out there. Make sure you
Okay,
stay safe. You've
I
been
just
doing a
put
great
it
job
up.
of bringing us all of these situations all morning long now for several hours. We also have our Jessica Hart on the scene. We want to go to her right now. Jessica, what are you seeing from your vantage point? If you can just give us a sense of where you are, because this is covering a few blocks.
Yeah, Lauren, we're near 28th and Blithedale here, and they just launched some tear gas canisters, and protesters ran back, but now you can see they're moving back up toward the front where those federal agents are staging. Now, before they deployed those canisters, there were a number of people just sitting on the ground with their hands up. And then several other people followed suit who were back and standing. It's really quiet right now. It was very chaotic just about 2 to 3 minutes ago. They launched something too that created a loud noise. I'm not exactly sure what that is called, but you can see they're starting to push back up toward that front line. In this street, there's just so much going on. There's kind of trash everywhere. There are signs on the ground from when people went to move. And there's actually people, if we turn this way, they've created a barricade here, or they're starting to create one. People have brought in wooden pallets, they're brought in trash cans, there's a sidewalk closed sign. So this scene doesn't seem to be dying down. People are not really going home. There's actually cars still driving through here, which there's a group of people just kind of walking through the street. So you're kind of weaving in and out of the cars here. But everyone seems to be pushing back toward that front line again. There's a man just walking with an American flag that he's waving. So it's quiet right now, Lauren. A few moments ago, it's very chaotic. And right up near where people are walking, that's 27th. And there are actually protesters on both side of the street. You can't see them right now, but it's kind of like there's this three sides of where people are gathering and federal agents are right in the middle. So if we see any more new developments here, we'll make sure to bring that to you. Back to you.
All right, Jessica Hart, we appreciate it. Thankfully, a little more calm where you are, but it is not where Sammy Selena is. So let's go back to Sammy, who is kind of in the thick of it right now. Sammy, not sure you can hear us. We can hear the flashbangs going off.
Yeah, I can. So right now, it looks like there's a fire inside of a car, and folks that have their water bottles are just trying to douse that fire. We're not exactly sure how it started, if it was because of chemical irritants or something else. But right now, people, they checked. There's no one in the car at the moment. I've heard that people have called authorities. And right now, it appears like that the very back of the car is on fire. And we'll, of course, keep our distance here as you continue to hear flashbangs and whatnot go off as well. So we're just trying to understand exactly what happened. But person after person, it looks like, are just bringing their water bottles, just pouring it into that car. This is 27th and Nicolette. Mitchell, if you want to kind of show off this area, this is exactly where we saw the perimeter get set up over here. And then you can tell that the police tape, it's all down. Federal officials have moved back. I've seen folks kind of go down 27th a bit, following those federal officials. And
Okay, guys,
just areas that they were not able to.
I'm going to be just sharing with you guys really quickly here, just posted on social media, trying to get people's attention on this, because this is a very serious situation. And the reason I'm streaming right now this early in the morning about this particular topic here is because there is so much tension right now socially and politically in this area, which I think could literally precipitate martial law coming down. There is so much division right now because of this recent shooting. This just another shooting just happened like 2 hours ago. And there is so much cloudiness of what actually took place. It almost looks like an execution. If you're not watching real carefully what's happening here, it looks to me like this guy, he may have had a gun. I can't tell. I took 2 videos of it, and I looked very closely. I could not see a gun in his hand. It looked, I'm just telling you what it looked like, and this is the way the left is going to interpret it. And like I said, I'm politically an atheist here. I don't have any dog in this show here, or pony in this show. I'm not left or right. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat, so I'm not sitting here fighting with each other. From my analysis of what I saw, just from the visuals, it looks like he was just executed. But he could have, because you can't see in the midst of all those ICE agents that were on top of him, because they were like dogpiled on him. There was probably like 10 agents on top of this one guy, and they're just pounding him and hitting him. He could have had a gun in his hand. I don't know. If you've got people that are on top of somebody that has a gun, that to me is, and they're beating him, they don't look like they're worried. They don't look like they're worried that he has a gun. Because if somebody has a gun, you don't just sit there. There's ICE agents walking around while they're beating this guy, and they don't look concerned. They don't look like, oh, wow, this guy's got a gun. They don't look all worried. But at a certain point, the guy sits back up on his hind knees. It looks like from one's angle that he sits on his knees, and that's when the shot rings out. Now, the shot, from what I can tell in the video, looks like it comes from, the first shot that I hear looks like it comes from the ICE agent, because you hear a shot, you hear the first shot, and then you see one of the agents run back like he did it. You can see he shot the first shot. It looks like he shot the first shot. He runs back, and he's got the gun in his hand. You can see him running back, and then the other ICE agents that are on top of him, they all pull back because they hear the shot. They hear the gunshot. They all pull back. They pull their guns out. This guy already falls on his face. Whoever shot him, that one ICE agent that shot him, he falls on his face. He looks like he's pretty much dead at that point. He falls on his face, and he's just laying there on his face, and the other agents pull back, and as they're pulling back, they're shooting him again. You hear more shots ring out. So literally, it just looked like an execution. I mean, that's what I'm just going to tell you it looked like. Like I said, I couldn't see his hands. He could have had a gun in his hand. I don't know. Nobody can really tell me or show me any definitive visuals that he had a gun in his hand, but they're saying he had a gun. That's what they're reporting on a couple of websites, but most hadn't even really figured out what's really going on there. The only reason I'm just telling you what I see coming with this is that I believe potentially this is going to incite huge amounts of unrest and violence. Now, there's some visuals right here. They're showing the side footage of when this happened. If you can see this, they're punching him. This is when that guy shoots. To see that guy right there, he is the guy that first does the shot, and these guys are all standing there, and this guy's on his knees, and then he falls forward. See, the guy's he's on his face right now. He's on his face. The guy he kind of gets up, he kind of pulls himself up a little bit, and then this guy right here shoots, and he runs back first. See, watch this guy right here. Watch this guy right here. See, he pulls out his gun. Boom. Anyway, it has to be really slowed down and analyzed, because they're stopping the footage before it actually happens. They're not really showing you the aftermath of when they all run. See, that guy pulls his gun right there. This guy right here is the guy that does it. He's the guy that shoots. This guy right here He's the first one that shoots, I think. And he knows because he shot. He's got the gun in his hand. When you see him running, he's got a gun. And he was the first one to shoot. And then all these guys like stand up and they're like, what? They heard the shot. They all back up. And then you hear more shooting after that because this guy basically falls on his face. This is the guy right here. I believe this is the guy. And then he falls on his face. Or no, the other. Okay, so here's Homeland Security. At 9:05 a.m., DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal alien wanted for violent assault. An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol with a 9mm semi-automatic gun. Seen here, the officers attempted to disarm the suspect, but the armed suspect violently resisted. More details on the armed struggle are forthcoming. Fearing for his life and the lives of safety of a fellow officer, the agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but was pronounced dead at the scene. Okay. So, is this it? Is this still going here? I guess this is actually over here. This is probably some footage here of the last 15 or 20 minutes. Let's look at this right here. No, we don't want to look at that one. Hold on, let me just get a live stream here. Whoops. Okay, let's listen.
Going to tell us exactly what transpired during that interaction today. And I mentioned this earlier, you know, all this comes after such a big turnout yesterday of people walking through the streets of Minneapolis, tens of thousands of people. And their message was, we want ICE to go home. We want the city to come back and try to be as peaceful as possible. And then we wake up to this, so it makes it a very difficult day indeed.
I know the chief was asked during the press conference, too, for people sitting at home, what are you doing to make sure that things calm down at the scene and in the city today? He said that there are a number of local law enforcement agencies, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. He said there are suburban agencies that have come in to help. They're in the city to help with this. State Patrol, we know, has a specialized team, a mobile team that has been active over the last several weeks as well. During the unrest following the shooting in North Minneapolis, we know we saw the DNR out there as well, supporting the state operations, so they may be on scene today. So a number of different agencies for people.
It really is an all hands on deck with law enforcement to be out there. And their job, we want to say it again, is to try to keep the peace. And the federal agents have a different task, but their task locally and statewide is to make sure crowds are safe, that people are protesting lawfully, which in many cases means not in the streets. You know, these are reasons that they can move people. So we continue to watch what happens, but we just saw Eric Rasmussen moments ago as the tear gas was dispersed and the crowd moved like crazy.
And Chief O'Hara, it is an unlawful assembly, what's happening right there, and they just want to clear the street. But if this happening at 26th and Nicollet, just to north of there at 20.
I'm just going to tell you guys what's coming from this. So whether you believe this was staged or whether that you believe that it was a legitimate defensive measure from ICE to try to protect their own lives, it doesn't matter. At this point, it's going to cause chaos. All I'm telling you guys is this is like a George Floyd moment. You're going to, you know, it doesn't matter if you think George Floyd was a criminal and deserved his own death because he took fentanyl and had a heart attack, or you believe that the police officer was a racist and he put his knee on his neck and basically killed him because he couldn't breathe. It doesn't matter which side you're on. It's going to cause chaos in the country. Okay, that's all I'm just telling you. I'm not in any way advocating for either side. I can't tell that he had a gun in his hand. I don't know. I couldn't see his hands. But I'm just going to tell you what, the public doesn't care politically. You know, the right's going to see what they want to see, and the left is going to see what they want to see. And the two shall not, you know, the twain shall not ever meet. And it's going to only intensify tensions. And that's what I'm saying, is it's going to lead to, probably, it's going to lead to conflict. and or martial law. Now, it's just like the Patriot Act. They're going to put martial law in to keep you secure. They're going to bring about all these controls and taking away of freedom because you need security. And you know what? The right's going to cheer it on. The right's going to be like, right on. But this is all part of the plan. This is all part of the plan. Everything is going in this direction for a reason. So just buckle up, because your freedoms are going out the window, because you know what? It's a dangerous world now. It's a very dangerous world. And nobody knows what's going on. AI is in control of a lot of the narratives. And all you can do is just continue to cheer for your team on whatever team you're on. Team Trump or team, liberal, Antifa, whatever side you're on, everybody's going to have their belief. Okay. This is just reporting, unbiased reports. I'm just telling you what's going to happen.
There, when that truck arrived, we heard applause from the gathered crowd here that they were here. But as you look further down Nicollet, about as far as I'm going to watch out for some bad words on signs here, Joe. As you look down, you can see the majority of the crowd has started to make their way down Nicollet all the way down there to 26th. And now we're talking about right at the scene of this morning's shooting. So they've the federal presence that was here has cleared out quite a bit right now, but people still very much on guard as they sort of collect themselves and get themselves back together after the show of force that happened right here. So that's what we know right now. These things come in waves, so we're going to stay here as long as we can and let you know what's happening.
Hey, Eric, I want to ask you the question. That's Chopper 5 just above your head that you see right there. If you can hear me, Eric. So in talking that, you were talking about some pallets that were moved, and those agents, were they on that scene as you arrived, or did they just show up on that scene? Do you recount that a little bit for us?
Sure. And hey, Joe, I'm going to ask you real quick. Is that, I believe you're looking at a state patrol helicopter right now.
Maybe so.
But to take you back, Paul, to that scene, the line of officers, and again, officers with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, at least at this location, were already there, lined up. So what you would expect, you had a large group, maybe 100 or a couple hundred protesters chanting, holding signs. The officers were standing with less lethal type weapons, just standing on guard. I remember when we first rolled up, I was standing with a little wrought iron fence from the business separating us from the officers, and they told us to take a couple steps back even from that fence. So, when you're out here, you got to pick your battles. And I said, sure. So we stepped back a few feet. But in the last few minutes, I've been able to talk to one of the people who was out here demonstrating, and he gave me some clarity. And again, we've got to vet and verify every statement that everybody says, whether they're standing here on the street or they're in positions of power. But what he described was some of the demonstrators moved one of those large wooden pallets. I don't know if they're moving to the side or moving it over, and he thinks that might have been what triggered the response from the officers to start shooting the tear gas and moving everybody back. Again, I heard the pallet. I caught a glimpse of it out of the corner of my eye. I didn't see anybody throwing anything or doing anything really obviously over the top. But at least from that one observer, that's kind of what set everything off.
You had mentioned a short time ago, you commented on the presence of federal officers that you don't see as many, and often has been in the case in the past couple of weeks. They'll set up a perimeter, push people back, and then all of a sudden the feds will disappear and things calm down. What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, I think that's the scenario you just described is what we're experiencing here, Kevin. You see people gathering around talking now. I am looking the best I can, and I do not see somebody who looks like an officer right now. Again, we got a long street here on Nicollet, so I see maybe some flashing lights a little further down, but it has calmed down significantly here.
just because they couldn't get to the
That's
So that,
car.
They
right,
doing too
what
much,
you said
man.
is
And
kind
they
of what
keep
we're seeing
pushing
here.
people, you know?
Eric, we can see 2 fire trucks behind you. What can you talk about the presence of whether it's the fire department or city police that are on scene there?
Also out the trunk here.
Well,
And
I've
we
got
did talk to the tenants.
2 Minneapolis fire trucks in my view. Watch out here. We got a vehicle making their way out of here. I hear you.
Oh, shit.
So
What the
two
fuck?
Minneapolis fire, and one other detail I didn't get a
They
chance to
killed
share
him?
before
Did they fucking kill that
before the
guy?
tear
Are you
gas
fucking
started coming out
kidding me, dude?
was as we were getting ready for our first live
Not
report
again. Are
here.
you fucking kidding
We
me?
saw
That
paramedics
guy's dead.
wheeling a guy on a stretcher down 27th Street to an ambulance that's off on a side street here. He was shouting to the crowd. I couldn't make out what.
Okay, so I cannot see the guy. I'm looking at this footage. I'm just really looking at this footage, trying to analyze this close up. And I don't see him. I do not see him with a gun. I mean, I can't see anything in his hands. I see him on his he's on his face. They're hitting him now. So yeah, I don't know, man. That is just absolutely crazy. That is just crazy. If you want to see the footage on our Telegram page, you can see it. There's also some footage close up on the AP, which is a different angle. There's a different angle from the AP. Let's listen in.
Where the police chief and mayor spoke a short time ago about what's going on. Ryan, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Kevin, I can just barely hear you. Having a couple technical difficulties out here.
To make sure that car fire was going to be put out, and people were just applauding that was happening. And people were also angry because multiple people told me that it was a gas canister or a flashbang that started that car on fire. And it seems like we saw that car on fire right after the last wave of gas canisters and flashbangs as well. So a very, very different scene. It looks like even traffic is able to get through here as well, although I would definitely suggest trying to stay out of the area if this is something that you want to drive through.
And Sammy, that is what Minneapolis police were saying as well. Stay away from that area. It is good to hear that things are calming down. I'm not surprised that happened as federal agents left, because there was just a really volatile, really violent confrontation happening between a line of federal agents and a line of protesters that we saw throughout the morning. And people are there cheering the Minneapolis Fire Department. And we have seen that it's our local first responders and law enforcement who have relationships in this community, and people are far more willing to obey their commands.
Speaking of local law enforcement, we did hear from Chief Brian O'Hara and Mayor Jacob Frey about an hour ago. Let's listen to a little bit about what the chief had to say.
Our demand today is for those federal agencies that are operating in our city to do so with the same discipline, humanity, and integrity that effective law enforcement in this country demands. We urge everyone to remain peaceful. We recognize that there is a lot of anger and a lot of questions around what has happened, but we need people to remain peaceful.
That's the big statement today, and I think that is abundantly clear after just seeing Sammy down there at the scene. Calmer now, and hopefully it stays that way. One would think the temperatures, I mean, what is it right now? Are we above zero even? No, we're not even above zero. One would think the temperatures would help with that, but to hear that maybe people are heeding that warning, please stay peaceful, please do not burn our city down, do not damage our city. I think that's an important message. Mayor Frey also spoke at that news conference today. Let's hear what he had to say. Stand by, we're getting the sound ready for you.
All right. We'll get.
Okay.
We will get to Mayor Fry in just a moment. It's a little slow this morning. Here he is.
Just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death. How many more residents, how many more Americans need to die or get badly hurt for this operation to end? How many more lives need to be lost before this administration realizes that a political and partisan narrative is not as important as American values? How many times must local and national leaders must plead with you, Donald Trump, to end this operation and recognize that this is not creating safety in our city? We have seen these kinds of operations in other places, in other countries, but not here in America. Not in a way where a great American city is being invaded by its own federal government. I'm done being told that our community members are responsible for the vitriol in our streets. I'm done being told that our local elected officials are solely responsible for turning down the temperature. Just yesterday, we saw 15,000 people peacefully protesting in the streets, speaking out, standing up for their neighbors. Not a single broken window, not a single injury.
All right, we do have a new tweet from Governor Walz in the last hour. He says, "I told the White House the state must lead this investigation. Let state investigators secure justice. As we process the scene, stay peaceful and give them space. The state has the personnel to keep people safe. Federal agents must not obstruct our ability to do so." And whether that happens, frankly, seems unlikely in the previous 2 shootings involving federal agents. The BCA use of force division has not been allowed to participate in the investigation and has said that the FBI has not shared key investigatory materials with them. So Governor Walz again telling us that he asked the White House for permission for state investigators to lead this investigation. We will see if the White House responds. We have yet to hear from the White House yet today.
We are working to confirm the identity of the victim today. What we do know from Chief Brian O'Hara is that it is a 37-year-old white male, a resident of the city, who is a lawful gun owner that did have a permit to carry. We have not confirmed who exactly this person is yet, but we are working on that behind the scenes here with our investigative unit. We do want to go out to Ian now, Ian Russell, who is live at the scene. And Ian, thankfully, you have your gas mask down. It looks quiet where you are. Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, well, my gas mask was up as the agents were leaving here. This is 27th here. This is the way we were standing. That's first down at that next intersection there. That's where we were for the majority of the morning before we were able to kind of get into a yard because of a kind neighbor who said, "Hey, I own these properties. If you want to come up here and stand here, you can." That's where we were when things really started popping off as the agents kind of rushed down here on Nicollet and then kind of dispersed from down Nicollet this way and then back towards First this way. And we were down this way as they were leaving. A couple of the folks we were walking with told us, "Hey, we tried to work with the agents, try to kind of clear the crowd a little bit to let them out peacefully." And he said for the most part that happened until they said the last car in that convoy of agents as they were leaving dropped a tear gas canister. And that's kind of when it got more chaotic. Obviously people were shouting, voicing their opinions, but that's when it got really chaotic. And that's where we were. As we were running down, I wish I caught his name because he was so kind to us, but there was this gentleman in an apartment complex down there who saw us and who saw several other people and said, "Hey, there's tear gas, get in here right now." I mean, I'll be honest with you, even with this on, my goggles weren't enough to kind of protect me. So I was coughing. I know Dave behind the camera was coughing for a second too. I knew it was tough. So thank you is what I'll say to the gentleman who helped us there. But let's walk this way. This is where we've been able to see. This is 27th and Nicollet where we've been able to finally get into. I know this is where Sammy and Mitchell have been for the majority of the morning, but yes, it is calm. It is peaceful. We've seen community members out here sort of picking up the pieces. I've seen a lot of people picking up tear gas canisters and pieces of trash that were left behind, trying to clean this place up. Traffic has kind of moved through. Obviously, different things have been happening. As you know, some people can get through, some people don't want to get through. But for the most part, I mean, it's peaceful. There is a crowd that direction. Oh, actually, that is more tear gas here. We're going to walk down this way because there is a crowd. We have not seen this here. Yeah, that's a large cloud of white smoke that we saw a lot as things were happening before. This was one of the directions the agents left to. So we'll see exactly what this is. But as we look down this way, a ton of people,
It's mostly peaceful. It's a mostly peaceful protest, guys. Just mostly peaceful. Once again, mostly peaceful. It's peaceful. It's peaceful. No, mostly peaceful.
Things down that way that are, people are talking or maybe being dispersed that way. Let's see if we can stop someone.
Ian, we can see
what they've
from
seen.
Sky 11 the clouds of tear gas or irritants that you're talking about. I see people rushing towards you right now. Are they trying to get away from the chemical irritants?
Yeah, here. Let's see.
State Patrol is telling
Did they
people
just
to
gas
leave
the
the
crowd
area.
down there? Yeah. They did? Oh, the State Patrol is saying that. Okay. Is it State Patrol or ICE down there?
There's ICE down there, but
Don't go on here, sir.
and State Patrol, I saw both. I don't know who's gassing. It's been ICE most of the day. They shot me with tear gas multiple times.
Okay.
I got hit with rubber bullets.
Yeah.
They're friggin' terrorizing us. ICE was doing most of that I was aware, but state troopers are around. I don't know who's doing what.
All right,
They're not protecting the people. I know that.
Thank you.
All right, Ian.
Here, we're going to walk a little bit further and see what we can see, guys.
Yeah, we'll keep your shot up and try and figure out what's going on there. State Patrol has ordered people to disperse. This has been declared an unlawful assembly. But as you can see, clouds of smoke in the area where Ian
go away
is.
from the smoke, please. We can see it in the chopper.
Yeah, you're getting too close, Ian.
Ian, go away
and
from
you
the
don't have
smoke,
your
please.
gas mask on, so safe distance, please, from the chemical irritants. We can see it over in the overhead shot from Sky 11, just how much tear gas is in the area at the time.
And you can see how cloudy it is just on the street level there. It almost looks like a fog. There's just an immense amount of gas in the area. Now, we're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to keep watching the scene that Ian is at right now. But we do want to just put a message out to folks because in light of all that's going on, this may seem insignificant, but a lot of people do attend the Winter Carnival every year. And the Carnival Grand Day Parade was scheduled for an hour from now. It's been canceled. So if that was something you were planning to do today, do not head there. That parade is canceled. As they say, they prioritize the safety of our participants, volunteers, and attendees. So anyway, we just wanted to let folks know that in case they were getting ready to head down to the scene. In the meantime, Ian Russell continues to be there, and we have heard from Sammy Selena that she thought the scene seemed to be quieting down, and then we go to Ian, who's got a different perspective a few blocks over, and you're seeing a massive plume of tear gas. So still, obviously, a tense situation down there.
And if you are at home listening and not down there, the State Patrol is asking people to leave. So don't go to the area. We're trying to help de-escalate things at this point. And so the Chief of Police also asking people to leave the area and to remain calm. Chris Rapsky joining us here now. And I'm so sorry, my computer's just totally in your way. But
you don't have to apologize.
You are talking about,
anything.
The video that has been circulating. There's several videos that are circulating. One that we've been able to confirm enough to show on air.
Yes, we have one that we can show on air. Why I'm buried into my phone right now, like a lot of people watching this, is because there are multiple angles from the same thing, and we can get a much clearer sort of perspective on what is happening here. Again, our job is not to adjudicate anything. Our job is to show you what we're seeing. In this video here, this is across the street. You can see, actually let me back up. There are other videos that show this man on the ground minutes prior to this, maybe even seconds prior. It's unclear of the timeline, but talking to an agent. You see the woman in pink there in the background? Her video is also online right now. We do not know her, we don't have permission to use it, so we're not gonna throw it up just yet. But what her video shows are agents pepper spraying a woman and a man on a sidewalk. The man is the person you see on the ground underneath the agents there. That video angle shows it. They're being pepper sprayed. The man is resisting arrest. He doesn't appear to be punching, or he doesn't appear to be like grabbing his gun and raising it or anything like that. What you see is him being tackled. And there are multiple agents. Now you can see with this camera, go back to this angle, where there are two agents on top of him. There is an intense struggle because I would imagine, I don't know, but they see he's armed. That's what I would imagine that they see. I can't say that for a fact. What I can tell you, though, is that a man in a tan coat, he looks like an agent, in a tan coat with jeans on, when this re-racks, comes into the fray and reaches towards the man on the ground's waist. In another angle, you can clearly see him grab a gun. It appears, cannot be confirmed yet, but it appears that he grabs the gun from the waist of the man on the ground. It is about a second later, right when this video stops. Here comes the man with the coat. He reaches down, he's grabbing for something. He pulls away right here. Other angles show very clearly he is now holding a gun in his right hand. Again, unclear whose it is, but it appears to be grabbed from the waist of the man on the ground, which would tell you. Actually, I'm not going to lead to conclusions because I don't know what it means.
I was just going to say, Chris,
but at that point, you see that you hear the gun shot,
right,
and then you hear a volley of more gunshots after that, with agents walking away as they're shooting.
Now, what we've learned from the shooting of Renee Good, which happened on January 7th, so we're literally, on the 24th day of this month, multiple angles of that video came out as well. It's hard to say anything at this point until, and we know more videos will come.
Yes.
We're already seeing more videos out there. We just haven't been able to vet them enough to get them on the air. And that's important to point out because we are trying to bring you facts that we've vetted. That's why we have not named this person yet.
Right.
We have the name of the person, but we're trying to vet that and confirm that and make sure that we're delivering you facts so that you can make your own conclusions.
And I'll be honest that right now, that video from the woman in pink or red, that is a very important angle to be able to see. I'm just learning that we do have permission now to use that video, so they are going to be back in our newsroom, freezing it, analyzing it, getting it in a position where we can show it to you because, as you can see, that's a really important angle on what's happening here.
Give me 5 minutes. I'll go ensure that we get it up on the air here because you're right. You can see it on social media. It is, you can see what happens in its entirety. And I'll just say this. We've been through this before in this city. Rioting, violence, there's no place for that. It solves nothing.
Yeah, and it does appear, that was the call from Police Chief Brian O'Hara, from Mayor Fry, from the State Patrol. Please go home. Please don't destroy our own city. This is a time when Minnesotans need to turn down the temperature here as they go out to protest. Protest peacefully, exercise your First Amendment rights. But now we have video here.
Is this happening? Is this a live? Okay, this is a live picture. Is this where Sammy is? Okay, so this is at the scene. So that's East 26th Street. You can see right there the crowd starting to form again. We're going now actually to Border Patrol
Chief for our area, Greg Bovino. He's going to talk about this shooting.
Patrol and Customs and Border Protection here in Minneapolis. Some of those brave men and women of Border Patrol and Department of Homeland Security law enforcement join me here today to show support for all federal law enforcement who have been under constant attack in Minneapolis for weeks now. This morning was no different. At 9:05 a.m. Central Standard Time, as DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal alien, Jose Huerta Chuma. You can see this illegal alien on the screen to my left and right. That is Jose Huerta Chuma, whose criminal history includes domestic assault to intentionally inflict bodily harm, disorderly conduct, and driving without a valid license. During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid to the subject, but the subject was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 loaded magazines and no accessible ID. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Then, about 200 rioters arrived at the scene and began to obstruct and assault law enforcement. Crowd control measures have been deployed for the safety of the public and law enforcement. This situation is evolving and more information is forthcoming. The officer was highly trained and had been serving as a Border Patrol agent for 8 years. The officer has extensive training as a range safety officer and less lethal officer. As mentioned, this is only the latest attack on law enforcement. Across the country, the men and women of DHS have been attacked, shot at, doxxed, had their family members threatened. And, as we have seen, more than 100 vehicle rammings over the past year against federal law enforcement. We will not allow violence against our law enforcement officers, and we need state and local help, state and local law enforcement, to help us coordinate to get violent criminals off the streets. Mayor Fry and Chief O'Hare just a few minutes ago did the opposite of that by omitting the fact that the suspect had a gun and magazines full of ammunition. In what looks like a situation, again, where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. I want to reiterate what President Donald Trump, Secretary Kristi Noem, myself, Director Marcos Charles, and so many others have said time and again. If you obstruct a law enforcement officer or assault a law enforcement officer, you are in violation of the law and will be arrested. Our law enforcement officers take an oath to protect the public. We go to work every day to protect our friends, our neighbors, and our fellow citizens. The fact of the matter is that the law does not enforce itself. It takes men and women who are willing to risk their lives to enforce it. The men and women of CBP and ICE, law enforcement, are highly trained professionals who love this country and do this work because they want to leave their kids and their grandkids a country that's safe and secure. Questions?
All right. One question. First question, when did agents learn that he had a gun, and did he ever agents?
Allie, this situation, again, is evolving. This situation is under investigation. Those facts will come to light. This particular incident is being investigated just like we investigate other similar incidents like we've done over the past several years. It's in the hands of professionals. Those facts will come to light.
All right, going on to the next question.
So, did he have an additional gun, or was the gun moved from the scene? And I watched the video from start to finish of that woman who was wearing the red jacket, and it doesn't seem like he pulled the weapon at any point. So, did the account come from the agents? Did they say that he pulled the gun before, during, after? When does the gun come out?
Again, this situation's evolving. This is under investigation. Those facts will come to light, but let's take a look at the gun. You can see the gun here on the screen there that individual possessed. It appears to be a semi-automatic, high-capacity type, possibly a Sig Sauer 9mm.
All right, no more questions. All right, no more questions, sir. Commander, where was the gun?
All right, that was Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino saying that his agents, Border Patrol agents, fired their weapons in self-defense. Notably, he was asked twice when the suspect, if the suspect, or not the suspect, I should say, if the man who was shot brandished his weapon, if they saw a gun, and both times Bovino deferred to answer that question and said that the investigation is still ongoing.
He did also mention who they were looking for. He mentioned someone named Jose Huerta Chuma. He says that the person is wanted for domestic assault and driving without a valid license, and that was their targeted enforcement, that the person that they were after today. What he did say is that the person who was shot had a 9mm semi-automatic handgun and that he violently resisted officers' attempts to unarm him, that he also had 2 loaded magazines and no ID. He also mentioned that the Border Patrol agent, or the ICE agent, I actually don't know exactly which agency that person worked for. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it is Border Patrol. He said he was highly trained and an 8-year veteran with the Border Patrol, that he had extensive training. So that is what we've learned from Greg Bavino, Border Patrol chief, so far this afternoon.
And important to clarify, because he did mention that the targeted enforcement was directed at this person named.
Okay, so I'm looking at some other angles. Okay, so guys, I'm looking at some other angles, and I'm going to tell you what I think. My personal thought on this is that from the one angle of the woman that they said was very important, I've got the other angle. So that woman that's across the street there, you see that woman right there with the red? She's taking video, and I got that angle. And it does look like he had something. Okay, so what happened was the ICE agents started to take some woman, or they were wrestling some woman around, and he came up and he wanted to defend. He had his camera out and he was taking video. Obviously he was trying to somehow thwart what was going on, and they came up to him and then they started wrestling him. And then at a certain point, from the other angle, it looks like one of the other officers shot him because they might have saw he had a gun. But the other guy, the other officer that ran back from the other angle, I think what he did was he took his gun out of his belt. So he must have saw that he had a gun, pulled his gun out of that guy's belt, or out of his hand. Maybe it was in his hand. I don't know. It was somewhere. He pulled his gun, took it, and then ran with it. But the other guy from the other angle shot him. It was another. I think what ended up happening is they saw that he was armed. I can't understand why the guy would want to take his own gun out and try to shoot an officer. But even if those officers just saw that he had a gun, that would have caused them to freak out possibly. I don't know. But one of the officers pulled that gun, it looks like, took it and ran with it. Took the guy that was on the ground, he took his gun and ran with it. And it was at that point, at the same kind of moment, where the other officer shoots him. Like, I could see him shoot, because from the other angle, you can see who shoots who. So this is going to be analyzed very closely. This whole situation is going to be analyzed from all the different angles, because there's like 3 different angles. So I've seen all 3 angles. This angle from a woman across the street looks a little bit more like, well, he was definitely resisting. Probably shouldn't have been doing that. I always tell people, you don't resist the police unless you want to get shot. There's a whole bunch of room in there for you to get shot when you start resisting a police officer. Just let them take you. Just let them cuff you. You deal with it without having to have an armed conflict, possibly you getting shot by some other, mistake or, situation that's going to arise where you're actually getting shot for under the heat of the moment. The dude should have just let them cuff him. He would have still been alive to this day. He could have dealt with it after the fact, whatever was going on there. But these people are so passionately resisting what's happening there that, and they may look at this as a, tyranny, and they might have more of a liberal kind of point of view. Who knows? But it's just going to be interpreted differently on both sides. That's all I'm saying. It's going to probably cause huge amounts of unrest. But that's just what I can tell at this point.
give us names, and then we can't confirm or vet that or make sure that it is fact before we put it on air here. So
and even
want to make
those
sure
numbers,
people know that. Even the numbers,
12,000.
Every day we're going to be in the streets. Okay? I'm sick of it. You're sick of it. I know if you live here, you're sick of it. And you're sick of it. You're sick of it. He's sick of it. We're all sick of it. It's over. It's over for them. This is our city, and we're not leaving. Okay? They can't chase us out of here.
When you heard about a 37-year-old, they said, white male who's a Minneapolis resident, American citizen that was shot and killed here?
Not surprised is the short answer. We've all seen the writing on the wall. We've all seen the writing on the wall. They killed a 37-year-old white woman 3 weeks ago, if that. It feels like an eternity living here in what feels like a war zone. We have to put ourselves together. We have to band together. We have to be here in these streets. We have to stand for what we believe in. At the end of the day, what do we believe in? I'm simply asking because I don't think they have souls anymore. They don't believe in themselves. They don't believe in the work they're doing. And the more we make it clear to them that they are not doing good work, the more the question will come into their mind. Am I out here for any good reason? No. They're going home. Thank you.
And he walked away. So tensions are very high right now, as you just heard from that man. And I could see the tears forming in his eyes. Hundreds of people who are here right now. Again, we are on Nicollet Avenue and 25th Street. There's a lot of signs, a lot of words that are on spray painted and on signs right now. But again, things are peaceful. I'm going to send it back to you guys right now.
Starting to march there, even with those.
Mostly peaceful protests at this moment. But what's going to end up happening, guys, is you're going to see a huge turnout as a result of this. People are going to start riot. They're going to riot, is what I think is going to happen. There's going to be so something's going on. Hold on. Oh, so they're showing the footage. So
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
Okay, so this is video just coming in to us and showing it there, a different view of what happened, of course.
So that was the view that I saw, but oh gosh. So all I'm telling you is that this protest that you see forming right here is just the beginning. I think that you're going to see outrage all throughout Minneapolis. You're going to see a huge turnout, and possibly this is going to spread. Unfortunately, it looks like it will probably end up spreading. I'm not sure what the temperatures are there right now. I know that it's very cold all across the country right now, and I'm sure that people are really freezing their butts off right now. But you know, there's competing stories, I'm sure, that they're going to be vying for people's attention. I have a feeling that people are not going to be able to. They're not ready for these storms. I just have a feeling there's going to be a bad outcome for that as well. So, who knows? Let me look at some stories here. Some other situations here. Hold on. Yeah, somebody said that and this is what I keep saying too, that the guy that was shot, he was already disarmed before they shot him, because this ICE agent took his gun. The one that I said that I saw running, this is the problem, is it looked like his gun was already taken from him before he was shot. And that's the sad situation of what could have possibly happened there, is that he was obviously resisting, you know, but it was like kind of like a very quick, he was trying to show some kind of support to somebody that he felt was being, you know, Yeah, because he had his gun, and then they shot him. See, this is the problem. They have video footage of him being disarmed, and then he was shot. That's not looking good. Okay, whether or not he was resisting, he still should not have been shot. He still should not have been shot. It says in the video that is seen, the victim's gun was already seized prior to the shot being fired. The Border Patrol agent in the gray jacket and baseball cap removes the firearm and walks away from the scene. After this, okay, so yeah, officers make arrest after CBP. Let's see. Leftists are throwing ice and trash cans while blocking a federal vehicle trying to get through to the scene to Minneapolis, where an armed man was shot. Here it is. Let me just show you guys some of the scenes here. Minneapolis is boiling over after ICE shoots another man today. Barricades are going up. Fires are being lit. Let's see. So there's something on fire here. It looks like... let me just see if I can show you guys this right here. This looks like a... I'm not sure what is going on here, but this is...
Agencies?
Law enforcement is in the center from where we're standing right here. I can't see what exactly they have on.
Okay, so you can't
but
tell.
they're in the center right now to preserve the scene.
Yeah.
And Leon, it would appear to me that you've got people arriving there, especially near.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was in the background there, but it looks like something was on fire. But yeah, there's going to be huge protests going down here. So this is the situation. Okay, so people are out here. I guess this is where the scene was, huh?
That you heard Camaria covering just a block and a half away, but here it is solemn, it's quiet, people are just sort of standing here reflecting. I've seen people in tears, and Joe, if we look over here, you could see they've put 3 candles in the snow to mark this spot. And you see a couple people kneeling down. Of course, you've got protesters, onlookers, journalists all here. And to give you perspective, now that you've seen a couple angles of the video, Joe, if we can tilt up a little bit, you see the pink glam doll donuts right there. And if you've been following our coverage, on air and online, there's a good chance you saw that video that was recorded from inside the donut shop there. Sorry, guys, this is some tough spot. A man on his knees breaking down here. We're trying to walk that line of bringing you what you need to know and what you need to see, and also trying to give people their space out here. But again, this is the scene where it happened. In my 27 years doing this, I've covered a lot of what they call officer-involved shootings. Many times, a scene like this is blocked off all day for processing. Not every time. And this one is there's not anything here other than this crime scene tape. As you hear people getting a little bit more agitated over here, we're going to send it back to you.
Eric Rasmussen there on the scene right where this happened. He showed us those candles that people have put there. We do want to apologize for the language. Yeah. Obviously, emotions are just...
Second time on screen here. A key question here. The man had a gun. Did he ever brandish it? Did he ever appear to threaten or pull it on agents? Can you see that in the video?
I can't see on the ground. It appears he does reach for his hip while he's sort of being sprayed, but I don't know what. Maybe he's grabbing a phone. Maybe he's going for the gun. I can't say. I can't give you too much context. All I can say is what I see and what you see in front of your eyes right now. That man is directing traffic He goes over to help a woman that gets shoved. I don't know if the officer's saying, hey, you need to leave here right now. You shouldn't be. I don't know what is happening on the ground there. We cannot say. But there's the officer giving the shove. He does not like that. He says, stop. This is when they claim he violently is resisting. It looks to me like he is protecting a woman on the ground. He is then grabbed and put on the ground. You can see it for yourself.
You see, guys, see, they're saying that he was violently resisting officers, which he really wasn't violently resisting anyone. He was protecting the woman. That's all he was doing, was protecting the woman. When they manhandled the woman, then they manhandled him. He obviously was trying to, defend himself at that point when he's got like all these officers on top of him. Like I said, this is all up to interpretation, and if you were in a situation like that, it would be different. You would probably see it in a different way if you were looking at that as being a roughing up of that woman. That woman was being totally, completely shoved by that officer. Did you see that? And he was sitting there. He couldn't. I guess he didn't like that. And obviously, if you saw someone being manhandled by a woman being manhandled by an officer like that, you probably would have wanted to step in and try to help, wouldn't you have? I mean, to a certain degree, if she was being shoved like that. Did you see how hard she was being shoved? I mean, look at this again. Look at this again. Look at how how she gets shoved.
Is the man on the ground's gun, or if he grabs another gun from an officer that may have dropped. We cannot say for sure what he grabbed. But if you want to talk about the narrative that we just heard Border Patrol say, which is that this person in the khaki-colored outfit that just lost his life came there intent on harming as many agents as possible. I believe that's a quote.
Mm-hmm.
That is not what this video shows. Plain, simple, naked truth.
And Chris, you've watched this video many times. I'm seeing it really for just the second time on screen here. A key question here: the man had a gun. Did he ever brandish it? Did he ever appear to threaten or pull it on agents? Can you see that in the video?
I can't see on the ground. It appears he does reach for his hip while he's sort of being sprayed, but I don't know what. Maybe he's grabbing a phone, maybe he's going for the gun. I can't say. I can't give you too much context. All I can say is what I see and what you see in front of your eyes right now. That man is directing traffic. He goes over to help a woman that gets shoved. I don't know if the officer's saying, hey, you need to leave here right now. You shouldn't be. I don't know what is happening on the ground there. We cannot say. But there's the officer giving the shove. He does not like that. He says, stop. This is when they claim he violently is resisting. It looks to me like he is protecting a woman on the ground. He is then grabbed and put on the ground. You can see it for yourself. Someone is hitting him in the head.
What happened to the woman, Chris? Do we know what's happening to her? Is she being detained as well?
She is being sort of
pulled out
tackled
of the way?
and pulled out by what appears to be another protester in a gas mask.
Okay.
But after the first shot, then you hear about, I can't tell you, 6 to 8 shots more. As agents are backing away, they're shooting him as they're backing away.
We are waiting right now, Chris, by the way, for a Governor Walz news conference. We will go to that just as soon as it starts so that we don't miss anything. And I know you were searching for other angles of video, and we know more will be coming in because there are plenty of people out there holding phones. We don't know if we're going to get any security camera video from any of the businesses that were in the area, but there's going to be plenty of angles to see this.
The young man who died, his phone will be the most significant in all that he's holding up right now. But what you're looking at right now, this video obtained by Drop Site News, the woman in the pink who was in the other video across the street, this is the best, closest video you're going to get to what's happening here.
It's really an incredible angle.
At no point do I see the man grabbing his gun. I just don't. I could be wrong, but I just don't see it. And this is why it's so important to have thorough investigations to ascertain truth.
Well, and that is why investigations are important, because they will have the technology to increase the quality of the video,
millisecond
to slow it
by
down,
millisecond,
and really get a sense of what was happening and what those agents would have seen or experienced in that moment, and what that person on the ground would have been doing in that moment. So, it's unclear for the public what sort of access we'll have to any of this investigation that's being done now. On their investigation.
To Governor Walz in his news conference. Let's listen in.
Thank you all for being here. I'll have a short statement, then I'll turn it over to Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson to update the situation, joined here by County Sheriff Witt, State Patrol Colonel, and General Menke, the Adjutant General of the Minnesota National Guard. Well, as I said last week, this federal occupation of Minnesota long ago stopped being a matter of immigration enforcement. It's a campaign of organized brutality against the people of our state. And today that campaign claimed another life. I've seen the videos from several angles, and it's sickening. But I have a strong statement here for our federal government. Minnesota's justice system will have the last word on this. It must have the last word. As I told the White House in no uncertain terms this morning, the federal government cannot be trusted to lead this investigation. The state will handle it, period. Let me say something else, and this is critically important. All of us understand what happened this morning and the tragedy of it, and my deepest sympathies to the family of a 37-year-old Minnesota resident, a lawful firearm concealed permit carrier, something that I've been lectured to by Republicans for decades, that is not only right, it's your duty. We know that the potential to further inflame tensions is high, and to Minnesotans, there's a difference. We want calm and peace and normalcy back to our lives. They want chaos. We cannot and we will not give them what they want by meeting violence with violence. Minnesota and our local law enforcement, as you have seen, have done everything possible to de-escalate. Local media has reported extensively on the cooperation to de-escalate this situation. Donald Trump, I call on you once again, remove this force from Minnesota. They are sowing chaos and violence. We've seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again. But in contrast to that, on these frozen streets, what you witnessed yesterday was the best of Minnesotans, peacefully exercising their First Amendment rights. And I attended in the church basement hundreds of Minnesotans from all faith packing care packages for families that have been ripped apart. Despite the horrific acts by this federal government, Minnesotans are standing up for the rule of law. They're protesting loudly and urgently, but peacefully. It must stay that way, Minnesota. Minnesotans are witnessing, and we're creating a log of evidence for the future prosecution of ICE agents and officials responsible for this. They're helping their neighbors, they're walking their kids to school, they're feeding families. I salute their courage and their restraint, and I call on all Americans to see the decency that this state is exhibiting and the horrific cruelty, unprofessional, absolute abomination that is passing for what these ICE agents are doing on our streets. They think they can provoke us into abandoning our values. Well, they're dead wrong. We'll keep the peace, we'll secure the justice with our neighbors, and we'll see this occupation ends. Minnesotans and Minnesota law enforcement that continuously is being denigrated by this administration will continue to be the adults in the room, the professionals in the room, the decent human beings in the room that will keep the peace. With this, I'd like to turn it over to Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson to update you on the situation as we know it. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Governor. I'm Bob Jacobson, Commissioner of Public Safety for the Department of Public Safety, and again, it's my honor to serve in that position. A man was shot and killed this morning in Minneapolis. I want to pause and remember what cannot get lost in this moment. A man died. His family and friends are feeling unimaginable heartbreak and trauma. And I know Minnesotans and I know our community will rally around this man's family and friends to support him. I also understand clearly that people are upset. They're scared, they're confused, and I want to assure you that this state's public safety officials and our local law enforcement partners are doing everything in our power to get answers, to help return a sense of normalcy back to our communities. You have the right to demonstrate peacefully. We recognize that demonstrations are often driven by strong emotions, beliefs, and a desire to be heard. But please, please remain peaceful. And I want to say it again because it is important and it is critical. Peacefully demonstrate. By doing so, you help local authorities to get answers. You help us to do our investigations. By remaining peaceful, you help ensure nobody else may be killed or injured. The thousands and thousands of people who gathered yesterday in Minneapolis proved that Minnesotans can make their voices heard peacefully, and they can do so without violence, and they can do so without destruction. And state resources are available and ready to support our local law enforcement partners as requested. And those resources include the Minnesota State Patrol, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and the Minnesota National Guard. With that, we'll stand for questions.
Governor, you've made this request before. Is there any reason to believe that it will be answered differently? Have you had any conversations with the president, with the federal government, and is there any indication that they are going to pull out or back down?
Well, I spoke twice this morning shortly after I received the call of this shooting. I spoke with the President's Chief of Staff, and first request was to get her people out of there, to get these federal agents out of there. They were going to cause more chaos. And second call is, with no uncertain terms, that we will investigate this. We will not be stonewalled. What we've already seen, and you saw it this morning, before any investigation is done, you have the most powerful people in the federal government spinning stories and putting up pictures, and unrelated people who we don't know anything about, and a picture of a firearm to try and spin a narrative. And I ask Americans, this will end when enough Americans say this will end. Do I have any confidence Donald Trump will do the right thing? No, I don't have a lot of confidence Donald Trump will do the right thing. I do have a lot of confidence that the majority of the American people will do the right thing. And I think there cannot be very many people across this country looking right now, after all the reporting that's been done, after everything that's been said, under the pretense that they are here about immigration reform, and quit referring to these people as law enforcement. They are not law enforcement. We have law enforcement who do an incredible job. And to listen to Greg Bovino denigrate the work of our people who are out there cleaning up their mess, no, I don't have a lot of confidence that he himself will do it. But here's what I do have confidence in. There's a whole lot of Republicans, for whatever reason, cannot find their spine. But they might find the ability to know that they're not going to win another election as long as they live, unless they stand up for what's right, and stand up for the rule of law, and stand up for human decency, and that's the moment.
So then, just to follow up, because then if that is not the case, what are the people of Minnesota supposed to do who are in the middle right now? Because if they do stonewall, and you're trying to investigate, is that force on force?
And look, I speaking to the people of Minnesota right now, I hear that scream from you, and I'll continue to plead and ask you for peace. And I know the answer is, you ask us for peace and we give it, and we get shot in the face on the streets coming out of a donut shop. We cannot give them what they want. I don't know how to say this in so many terms, to watch the madness that we've witnessed over this last week coming out of the White House and what it's doing here. My confidence is, and I say it to Minnesotans, as I've said, exercise your First Amendment rights, speak out, bear witness and document legally. But I understand the risk in that, and I understand the courage that it takes to have people out there doing this. Thank God, we have video. Because according to DHS, these 7 heroic guys took an onslaught of a battalion against them or something. It's nonsense, people. It is nonsense and it's lies. So my confidence is this, Minnesotans. You know who you are, and you demonstrate it every single day, and we damn sure know who these people are. The American public knows, and this needs to be the event that says enough. Go ahead. No, I'm up front.
Governor Carolyn Cummings, either you or Commissioner Jacobson speak to the fact that you talk about you don't trust the federal government to handle this investigation. We know with the Renee Good shooting, BCA said that they were blocked from accessing evidence. Has there been any suggestion that BCA is not allowed to do this investigation? Do you have officers on the ground doing the investigation right now?
The question was related to whether or not the BCA is on the ground currently with the investigation, and a reference to previous investigations that the BCA have attempted to be a part of. What I'll tell you right now is that we no longer have BCA agents or public safety, state patrol, or Minneapolis on the ground at that crime scene.
Is that an instruction by the federal government, or did you pull your agents out?
What I will tell you, and not to get further into the investigation, but DHS pulled out of the scene, leaving that to Minnesota State Patrol, Minneapolis. We did not have enough resources to be able to hold that ground safely, and we had to leave that scene because of the number of people that were available and the safety of those in the public and the safety of our teams. We were able to get there, but at that time we were not able to hold that scene to do a crime scene investigation. I can't talk any more about those details. We'll have more on that, but the BCA is engaged and involved, and we are working at the request of the Minneapolis Police Department on this, on the scene and in this investigation. So we are there, we're available. We want to make sure that we continue to work on this and engage with our federal law enforcement, but at this point, we don't have anything more to share about the crime scene. Again, we were not able to hold it. We wanted to make sure and keep people safe. But federal law enforcement left the scene and left us there.
Governor Ernesto with the New York Times, have you activated the National Guard? I noted that Sheriff Witt has requested for additional assistance. Can you tell us whether they're going to be playing a role in keeping?
Yes, the answer is yes, we have, as we said last week, and we staged those troops. I'll have General Menke talk about where they're at, and again, use this as an opportunity to stress to Minnesotans the frustration you have, and as you saw this, they killed a man, created chaos, pushed down protesters, threw gas indiscriminately, and then left the scene, and then we're left to clean up. I understand the anger. I understand trying to parse who were the law enforcement on the scene when you got there after a man was killed is difficult. But I can't stress enough, our goal, and I'll have General Menke talk about what the role of these Guard troops are in conjunction with incredible work from the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, from mutual aid across, and of course the State Patrol, of trying to get to the point where what we're saying is we can handle this and Minnesotans can express their First Amendment rights and have our folks on the streets and get these people out of here. And so, John, if you want to talk a little bit, but the answer is yes, there's activated. He can talk to you about numbers.
To be clear, Governor, activated different than having them state.
Yeah.
So the question is, what's the National Guard doing right now? So we have been on state active duty for over a week. So we've had soldiers prepared in the metro area to respond in a much rapid manner than if they were not mobilized. So we have a request from the Hennepin County Sheriffs to support them, and that is to help them free up additional resources for other work that they need to do. And we have started coordinating with them this morning on that, and that first area of support will be assisting them with their requirement to provide security to the Whipple building. So we'll be helping them there, and then we are in parallel planning with other organizations within the state of Minnesota, to include the State Patrol, the Minnesota DNR, and other local agencies to render assistance if requested.
Could you say how many are now employed?
I would say that the number that we have is adequate for the requests that we have right now, and I will also tell you that we are bringing more resources that will be able to respond in a timely manner that are not fully mobilized yet, but we are mobilizing more soldiers as we talk at this time. I'd like not to get into specific numbers for an operational security standpoint, but right now we have all the resources to meet the requests that we have.
I would note on this one, too, that we'll be billing the federal government for the cost of the National Guard because they are incurring the costs that are falling on us by their reckless actions. Yes, sir.
You alluded to this earlier, but are you rejecting the narrative that has been presented by this man, this 37-year-old citizen of Minneapolis, who posed a threat to these agents? And are you rejecting the idea that he played some role with the weapon in leading to?
I'm rejecting the rush to judgment within 15 minutes of this, which they did last time. That's why you need to have a fair investigation. And that's why a video can show one thing, but what happened beforehand. But they already will slander this individual. They've already made this the case. And I will just say, you will all start to see it, and some of you probably have. There's multiple angles of this. And I'll go back to what we talked about before. They're telling you not to trust your eyes and ear, not to trust the facts that you're seeing in front of them. And at some point in time, your reporting, and I think the reporting this week has been spectacular across Minnesota, that there's not two sides to every story. In this situation, what I'm saying is we need to have a fair investigation, understanding what's happening and held accountable. We continue to hear, and we heard it from the Vice President, that these folks can do whatever they want. They can have full immunity. And what I'm telling you is they will not. There will be justice to Minnesotans. Continue to gather the information. So I won't say where it is because I think it's irresponsible to make that judgment. But what I see with my eyes and what you're going to see with your eyes makes that pretty hard to believe. And I would imagine as a federal officer, they would have come out and sounded like these professionals sound and say, we need to gather the information, we need to gather all the facts, we need to put them forward, and then we can make some informed decision based on the fact. They've written the narrative already. And the audacity to critique the police chief of Minneapolis after what work that those heroic officers are trying to do, and to be critiqued by this guy, I mean, I don't know, I've said it a lot, but America, as you're listening, enough is enough. Enough is enough of this. End this. End this. And we see them moving to Maine. If you're in Boston, you're in Chicago, you're in Philly, you're in Miami, it doesn't matter. We can't live like this. Our children are in trauma. A 5-year-old, you saw the picture, the bunny hat and the Spider-Man. Is there not like some narrative to throw around, to parade around in some coat you had made and act like you're a tough guy or whatever? These are people's lives, and we have rule of law. So I'll let the investigation play itself out. We will do our best to find it, but I don't know, you kill a man and then you just leave your law enforcement, you just leave him. Is there a single case in American history where you just like walk away and say, I guess that just happened and we're not going to clean up our mess? I'm proud of Minnesotans. I'm proud of law enforcement here and our partners, and we'll get to the bottom of it. I think we have time for another one. So, yes, ma'am.
Brittany Number with the Channel 5. Our ICE commander just said in the press conference within the hour that they're calling on state and local law enforcement to, quote, help coordinate to get violent criminals off the street. What's your response to that request?
I'm better off to let these guys, the professionals, I have my thoughts.
So the question was, what are we doing to assist federal law enforcement on getting violent criminals off the street, if I understand the question?
Yes, Greg Levino said that in the press conference. He was calling on state and local law enforcement. So what is your response to that?
State and local law enforcement are always ready and willing and able to arrest violent offenders. We do not stand down from that, no matter where we get that information from. If there are violent offenders or violent criminals or violent crimes, we will investigate and we'll bring those to justice. If the federal government would like to work with us, to continue to work with us as they have in the past, to locate those violent offenders, we are always open to those discussions and always willing to assist. We do not ignore that. We are ready and able, and we do that. All of you as part of the media hear us arresting violent offenders all the time. We have not stood down. That is our mission. The federal government is not alone in arresting violent offenders. State and local law enforcement does that every day at great risk to their life, at great risk to the community. We do it because we want a safe Minnesota, and the federal government is not the only one to do that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm here. I'm not going.
All right, you've just been listening to a news conference with Governor Walz as well as state law enforcement leaders there talking about the situation today. Governor Walz calling it sickening and saying that this is an organized brutality against our state. In addition,
okay, guys, so listen to this. So, guys, they're saying now Pam Bondi is now stating that agents with several federal agencies, including the DEA, ATF, and FBI, are being deployed to back up Homeland Security in Minneapolis. So this is like a whole contingency of new federal agents pouring into this area now, following the shooting of a 37-year-old male by agents with Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So this video shows, if you really look at it, the guy was disarmed. He was disarmed before the other agents started shooting him. Now, maybe they didn't know. They thought he had a gun. He was going to shoot somebody. I don't know. The way it looks from the video is that he was. See, this is what's coming out. This is what's going to come out. There were 3 different angles. Everybody's going to dissect these videos. What this is going to do is this situation is going to cause chaos. I'm telling you, now you've got a standoff between federal authorities and local and state authorities that are law enforcement. So, and you got the population in an uproar, and they're going to say, "Oh, it's just a whole bunch of liberals," right? So the government, conservative, and/or Trump administration going to say it's all liberals, and the liberals are going to say it's all the conservatives, and then you got those that are in the middle that are just looking at what it is that's evidence. What does the evidence say? What is it? Now, what happens if this evidence of 3 or 4 different angles shows that this man was, because he wasn't resisting. I mean, he wasn't really resisting at the time that they threw him around, at the time that they pepper sprayed him. He was trying to save this woman, or at least protect her from being pushed down, because she was pushed down. I don't know if you saw the video. He was standing there just filming, and then this woman was very, very roughly pushed on her back by an ICE agent. He went over to pick her up. He went over there to pick her up. He picks her up, and he holds on to her. And then the ICE agent comes in and starts roughing up him, and for helping her. And then he sprays him with pepper spray while he's holding on to the woman. Then he tries to tear him apart from holding the woman. He tries to rip him away from holding the woman. He's not resisting the officer. And at that point, they all jump on top of him. That's when they jump on him, because they saw him trying to protect the woman, and he also had a camera. They probably didn't like the fact that he was filming it. And you had all these other angles of people filming at the same time. And that is when they started hitting him, beating him, punching him in the face. You had about, 7 or 8 ICE agents on top of him. Then at that point, probably he probably said, "Hey, I'm armed," or maybe they saw the weapon that he had, and that's when one of the ICE agents came and took his gun from him. They took his gun, because obviously they're on top of him, they're wrestling with him. He's armed, he's got an arm, probably on his belt. So they took the gun away from him. Somebody probably heard him say, "I have a gun," or "he has a gun," because he didn't want to get shot. Usually what happens is if someone's armed and the police are there, if they're carrying a concealed weapon, they say, "Hey, I'm armed. I have a weapon." They don't want the police officer to freak out, right? So they'll say, "Yeah, I have a weapon." And so they search you. That way they don't freak out if they see a weapon on you and they're going to shoot you, right? So maybe he said, "Hey, I've got a weapon." So that's when he was disarmed. The other ICE agent came in, pulled his gun out of his belt, and started to get away from the scene. And when he walked away from the scene, that is when the shots rang out. That's when he was shot and killed by like 5 or 6 other shots. So this is not good. This does not look good at all. This doesn't look good at all. I'm just telling you from the little bit that I've seen right here, this is probably not going to fly over too well with either the liberals or the the ones in the middle, the libertarians or people that are, and I bet you even people on the right are going to be looking at this and going, well, wait a minute, this guy had a concealed carry, he was lawfully carrying, he wasn't doing anything to resist at the beginning, he wasn't resisting anything, he was just trying to help that woman, he was taking video of what was happening, he was filming. Maybe they didn't like the fact that he was filming. Maybe they didn't like the fact that he tried to help the woman. Either way, the ICE agents went after him, and he wasn't doing anything at that point, and that's when they started beating him up. Okay, so from the different angles, everybody's going to dissect this. Like I said, your politics may determine how you view it. I don't know. But from my point of view, it doesn't look good. It looks like it's going to cause just chaos. That's what it looks like it's going to do to me. What it looks like what's coming out of this. But listen to what some of the commentary here.
Situation and escalating when both parties have firearms, and I really feel bad for everybody involved.
There. And then after that, I called Mylan Masson, a director of the law enforcement program at Hennepin Technical College, who also has served on multiple police boards, has done extensive training and practice policies with law enforcement in Minnesota. This is
just put up probably within the last 15 or 20 minutes. Now, I did walk down towards 26 and Nicollet Avenue in front of the Glam Doll Donuts, and there's majority of the community is there right now. Hundreds, possibly up to thousands of people that are there. They are taking space. They're in the street. We don't see any law enforcement at all, from federal to local, in this area, and people are starting to preserve the spot where that 37-year-old man was shot and killed. I also saw 2 bullet holes in a window at a nearby business, so people are coming there. We saw some flowers being laid down and some other things to recognize what happened to that individual. But again, people are still here, hundreds, maybe up to thousands of people that are taking space. Earlier, there was a march around this area where a community activist says that they are trying to, or at the time they were trying to force those federal agents out. And again, we don't see them here right now, but things are peaceful. People are just chanting. And so we're still going to be monitoring the situation all day as more information comes out.
Mostly peaceful.
You saw that fence
Mostly
go
peaceful.
up. Yeah, indeed, a fence right there. And it is such a scene that you see. We had such a peaceful protest yesterday, and then to wake up to this and see what's going on today, it is a shocking thing.
And the governor referenced that, as we heard from everyone at that press conference, that yesterday was
Okay, so I'm sorry. I thought I was on there. I had my microphone off. I'm sorry. So here is Trump talking about the gun being loaded. As I said, I think this is going to precipitate into something much worse. They're already making judgments on what this is all about. They're saying here that the gunman had an extra clip, but usually what happens is when you have a concealed carry permit like this man had, they usually have an extra clip. That's usually what happens when officers have two clips. You know, when they walk around, they have one in the chamber, or they have one clip in their gun, and they have another clip or another couple of clips on their person. That's just what happens when you conceal carry. You know, that's just normal. So I don't know what Trump is talking about. He had an extra magazine, like really? And it was ready to go? Oh, you mean it had bullets in it? Well, that's the way it normally is set up anyway. You usually have extra bullets in a magazine if you're concealed carrying. That's what police do. That's what people that carry guns do, whether they're undercover agents or whether they're just citizens that carry a weapon. They usually have an extra magazine. And then Trump is like completely confounded by the fact that there was an extra magazine. What is that all about? Where are the local police? Why aren't they allowed to protest? Why weren't they allowed to protest or protect ICE officers? Well, when you look at the video, it looks like the man was just kind of sitting there trying to protect the woman, and they kind of just came up on him and started roughing him up. That's what it looked like to me. The mayor, I really didn't see anything that looked threatening by that man, except for the fact that he had a camera. He had a camera. That was all he was doing, was he was filming them. And they didn't like that he was filming them. And then they didn't like the fact that he tried to hold on to the woman that was being pushed down. And he didn't like the fact that they roughed up the woman. He didn't like that. I mean, they really roughed up that woman. Did you see how that ICE agent pushed that woman down? He just went with all of his might and just pushed her on her backside. And then he went to go pick her up off the ground. And that's when the ICE agent came up to him and started roughing him up. And then he responded. Obviously, he kind of like, what are you doing? Why are you pushing me around? And that's when all the other ICE agents jumped in, and then they pepper sprayed him. They pepper sprayed him right at that moment. They pepper sprayed him. Like I said, I saw the escalation, and I'm just telling you what I saw. So Trump says the mayor and the governor called them off. It is stated that many of these police were not allowed to do their job, that ICE had to protect themselves. Not an easy thing to do. Why does Ilhan Omar have $35 million in her account? And where are the tens of billions of dollars that have been stolen from the once great state of Minnesota? Okay, that's another issue. We are there because of massive monetary fraud and billions of dollars of missing and illegal criminals. Billions of dollars of missing and illegal criminals that were allowed to infiltrate the state through the Democrats' open door policy. I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm not saying that there isn't corruption and fraud. It's on every level. It's in the highest levels. It's just who prosecutes who has the power to prosecute, and who has the power to say that they're guiltless, right? The victor always writes history anyway, right? Whoever's the victor writes the history. So like I said, it doesn't really matter to me. It's all criminal activity from the very tippy top all the way down to the bottom. The criminals are everywhere. And I'm not saying that Minnesota is free of any, institutional, white collar criminals that are running around there. I'm sure it's all the way up. But it goes on to say, we are there, this is Trump, we are there because of massive monetary fraud with billions of dollars missing and illegal criminals that were allowed to infiltrate the state through the Democrats' open door policy. We want the money back, and we want it back now. Those fraudsters who stole the money are going to jail, where they belong. This is no different than a really big bank robbery. Much of what you're witnessing is a cover-up for this theft and fraud. The mayor and the governor are inciting insurrection with their pompous, dangerous, and arrogant rhetoric. Instead, these sanctimonious political fools should be looking for the billions of dollars that has been stolen from the people of Minnesota. Hey, I'm not saying that that's wrong, but like I said, when you're looking at this situation, just isolate this instead of adding all this other stuff to what just happened there. Just look at what just happened in this situation. That's all that you need to do. I guess the context of corruption justifies roughing people up and possibly not really doing, because there's no investigation that's even gone on. I don't know how you can come to a conclusion about a killing without really there even being an investigation. This just happened only an hour or two ago, a little over an hour or two. There's no way, and there's nobody even securing the crime scene anyway. So how are they? The only way you can come to any conclusions about if it was right or wrong is by looking at the video and analyzing what actually took place. This is totally, completely separate from anything that has to do with criminal activity in the government of Minnesota. This is just you should just look at this as an isolated incident of whether or not this is being used politically as a battering ram from either side. I mean, obviously either side is going to try to capitalize on this, but just in and of itself, its own merit. What actually happened? Like, did this man lose his life for really no reason? I mean, was he really resisting? I mean, like I said, the video shows that the gun was taken out of his belt by the One ICE agent, and he ran away with it. And then it was right after that the man was shot. So he was unarmed when he was being shot. Do you understand what just happened there? The video shows the ICE agent pulling his gun away from him. He took the gun away from the guy that was on the ground. And then he was basically shot by the other agents at that point, after his gun was taken. So Trump says instead, these sanctimonious political fools should be looking at the billions of dollars that have been stolen from the people of Minnesota and the United States of America. Let our ICE patriots do their job. 12,000 illegal alien criminals, many of them violent, have been arrested and taken out of Minnesota. If they were still there, you would see something far worse than you are witnessing today. You know, I don't know. All I'm telling you guys is it's probably going to get worse. Looks like it's just going to get worse and worse to me. Here is the video. I'll show you the video so you can kind of make for yourself the conclusion here. Draw yourself your own conclusion, but let me move out the sign out of there. Hold on. All right, now just look at this. Okay, so the guy with the coat, the gray coat, takes the gun out of his belt or wherever the guy had the gun. He takes the gun and he runs with it. See, he took the gun away from him. He see the gun in his hand? He takes the gun. Now watch. This is when the shots ring out. Watch. After he takes his gun away. So the dude doesn't even have a weapon and they're shooting him. The guy doesn't even have his weapon and they're basically shooting him. All right, so that right there shows this is going to be all over. They're gonna exploit all of this. The people of Minnesota, the state and the state and the local law enforcement are going to probably do their investigation, and they're going to show that this happened the way it happened. And then what Trump and the Trump administration and the federal agencies are doing is they're escalating all of their involvement, and they're going to say that this was done as a result of, and Trump makes it seem like this guy had it out for the officers. He was going to execute the officers. He was preparing to shoot all these officers. The video footage does not in any way suggest that. Any of the video footage that you see does not suggest that this man was in any way intending to do anything. All right, I've already seen the escalation, the way it escalated. He was not in any way intimidating ICE officers at all. Okay. This just shows the slow down footage of what happened. The guy takes the gun out of his belt. There he is. He's got the gun in his hand. He runs with the gun. He runs away with the gun, and this is when the shots ring out right here. See, that's when they take the guns out and they start shooting them. So that's really, really a bad situation. Really a bad situation there. Now, there's other footage, that a different angle that I could show you as well. Let me see if I can find that other angle. There is another angle. Wow, this is interesting. Gosh, that is very interesting. Let me pull this. Let me just write this out here on our feed here. I'm looking at some polls here. What do you think what do you think about the Minneapolis shooting? Federal agents opened fire in self-defense. It was an accident, unintentional misjudgment, panic shots. I think it was panic shots. It's a tie between panic shots and federal agents open fire in self-defense. So it's 41% federal agents open fire in self-defense, 36% say panic shots, 18% say unintentional in misjudgment, and 5% say an accident. So 18, let's see, 36, 46, 47, 49, 51, 52, 54, 58, 59%, almost 60% believe that it was either unintentional misjudgment, accident, or panic shots. So more people are siding on the fact that this was done in error. Okay, this was done in error. Let's take our own poll. I'm going to do my own poll here. ICE agent panic shot. ICE fails defense. Misjudgment. That's the way it went. Let's try that one. Miscalculated panic, self-defense. Let's see. Self-defense, panic shot, miscalculated. That's probably the same thing almost, though. Miscalculation and misjudgment. Anyways, let's see if okay, so here is some live video footage of the protests. This is all happening right now.
So far, I haven't seen any federal officers. This is predominantly protesters, and there was a lot of them. A sea of demonstrators holding up signs, as you can see, guys.
Okay. Ryan Raish, near the scene at 26th and Nicollet in South Minneapolis, where, I don't know if peaceful is the right word, but they've taken control of, protesters have taken control. And what you're seeing on the right is video from earlier.
Peaceful.
Because we've been told the feds are gone. We haven't seen chemical irritants used in hours now. And so they're just kind of taking control of this area. And this is a very busy part of South Nicollet, too. So many restaurants and businesses in there.
Especially on a Saturday morning. You know, we've been trying to figure out what the administration's response would be to this. J.D. Vance did post on X within the hour. Of course, J.D. Vance, the vice president, was in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, just days ago. He says, quote, "When I visited Minnesota, what the ICE agents wanted more than anything was to work with local law enforcement so that the situations on the ground didn't get out of hand. The local leadership in Minnesota has so far refused to answer those requests." That was the X post from Vice President J.D. Vance within the hour, and more of what we've been hearing from the administration. We're really just getting a standoff between the administration and the state administration.
Which we've heard that from the beginning.
From the beginning.
Telling two different stories. And so our objective here is to try and bring you both sides, what everybody is saying, because all we want to find out is what the truth is. And the truth and the facts are right now that the local authorities and the federal authorities are not communicating. They're both telling different stories about what happened. We're not, Greg Bavino from Border Patrol says there is an investigation underway. The governor says that they don't trust the feds, and he told the White House Chief of Staff, Minnesota is going to handle this. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty is also asking people to share their videos on the county website so they can gather evidence against the ICE evidence to help understand what played out here in South Minneapolis this morning.
The governor, is that what you were saying?
Well, I mean, Mary Moriarty is asking people to share videos. But anyway, and the governor says they're just looking for these videos to help tell the story of what happened. I don't want to say evidence.
Well, he also said to assist with future prosecutions of ICE. And we do have his soundbite. Let's listen to what the governor said.
All of us understand what happened this morning and the tragedy of it, and my deepest sympathies to the family of a 37-year-old Minnesota resident, a lawful firearm concealed permit carrier, something that I've been lectured to by Republicans for decades, that is not only your right, it's your duty. We know that the potential to further inflame tensions is high, and to Minnesotans, there's a difference. We want calm and peace and normalcy back to our lives. They want chaos.
All right, so we just heard from the governor, obviously emotional, and he says he wants calm and peace. Now, there's two sides to every story, and we are hearing from others who are saying he's not doing that. During that press conference, he said that the ICE agents, Homeland Security, Border Patrol, should not be referred to as law enforcement. That is a very strong statement to come from the governor of a state, to say that federal agents should not be referred to as law enforcement. Is that urging calm? You can decide that. But so far at the scene, it has been calm after.
Once everybody left.
Once everyone left and law enforcement was totally removed from the scene, both state and federal.
So looking ahead, what is coming next? We're kind of in a holding pattern right now. I'm not aware of any more statements being made or planned statements or anything. I think we're probably just waiting to see if the Minnesota National Guard shows up outside the building.
What
They
that
have
looks
been
like.
staged locally. We know that. And again, General Menke said his words, we're bringing more resources and more soldiers are being mobilized for what we asked. And he didn't really want to say that, and we completely understand that. They don't want to give away any secrets, but I think the whole idea is here they just want to help keep the peace and keep everybody safe.
But the governor did let it be known that they will be billing the federal government.
Yeah, he did say that.
For any work that the National Guard does.
Yeah. So right now, the situation is, as we approach 2:30 in the afternoon, we're breaking into our regular programming. There is a crowd of hundreds and
this is live
hundreds
right now.
of protesters in South Minneapolis at near 26th in Portland, where just after 9 o'clock this morning, federal agents were conducting what they called a targeted operation to arrest an individual they say was in the country illegally, and they identified him as Jose Huerta Chuma. According to Greg Bavino from Border Patrol, he has a criminal history that includes domestic assault, disorderly conduct, and driving without a license. We do not know if that man was actually arrested, but that's when Border Patrol says a man now identified as 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Preddy, identified and confirmed by Preddy's parents, approached Border Patrol with a 9mm gun, and agents tried to disarm him, but they're saying Preddy violently resisted. Agents fired shots. In one of the videos we heard, I counted 9 or 10 shots fired. We do then Border Patrol shows us the weapon they took from Preddy, a 9mm handgun.
They've been showing a picture of that. I don't know if we have that.
In a car seat, the gun. They say he had 2 clips of ammo, 2 magazines with him. There's the gun we're talking about right there that Border Patrol says Preddy had with him. Again, in my experience, normal police investigations, you just don't see this from law enforcement right away. And what he also said, Bavino, was that this person who has now been identified wanted to do max damage. And we understand when we show you those videos, it's hard to see that. Yeah,
we don't know what happened before.
And he said he wanted to massacre law enforcement, but plenty of eyewitnesses down there, and that's what the local authorities, again, MPD has called in the BCA, who had to leave the scene because the crowd got so big, but they're asking for people to share their videos because, as you can see, there are a lot of eyewitnesses who may have seen what happened before this. We just haven't seen that yet here into our newsroom about what happened before Preddy approached the federal agents trying to make an arrest.
In the area of that scene, we've talked to our Eric Rasmussen, where you see an emotional crowd, people on their knees. Our Ryan Raish at a different angle. It's not violent, it's peaceful, but people are upset. Let's go to Ryan Raish again right there.
Yeah, Lindsay, so we've kind of worked our way through the crowd, and it is growing out here. A lot of people have come here. I'd say at least a few hundred folks gathered around. There's a person on a megaphone leading some chants. I heard them call for no violence here, but as you guys were talking about, this is, they've sort of blocked off this entire intersection for several blocks. I do want to show you, and Dylan noticed this earlier as we were walking around. Look on the rooftops here. There's even folks on some of the roof tops right there on the corner. This is a business. And if you swing the camera around, I mean, there's an apartment building over here. Dylan, I don't know if you can see that up there. There's people gathered up there. At first, I thought it was maybe police just kind of keeping an eye on things. That is not police. That's just folks watching and perhaps participating in the demonstration as well from up there. As far as police, we just walked through. I have not seen any officers. I haven't seen any federal agents in this crowd so far. they are around a few blocks away where you can see some flashing lights as they are sort of doing like traffic control.
Okay, guys, so I'm going to show you guys this other angle. I think this is the other angle. Let me see. Nope, this is not the other angle. There is one other angle. I'm trying to find this other angle. This was the protest yesterday in Minneapolis. Look at that. You think that it's not going to be worse than that today? That was yesterday. That was a protest yesterday. Okay, hold on. They're talking about something here. Hold on.
And what I was saying is when we try to get here, there are so many streets and intersections where they're stationed. I think they basically made a perimeter around this area. Now, can you get? I think you can still get through.
That
Clearly, they're
was
there.
that was the protest yesterday. I mean, look at the protest. Look at how many people are out there.
Our community has been through so much. The tone after these situations, you don't know how to respond.
It's kind of surreal to watch. And of course, it's coming after those images, and some people saw the sub-zero temperature.
Okay, so I'm going to show you guys one more time. This just look at how many people were out here yesterday. That was yesterday. Just think about what's going to happen today. Just think about how many people are going to be out there today. This is just yesterday in Minneapolis. Can only imagine what's going to happen now when people start viewing these videos and finding out what really went down, how they interpret it. My goodness. This is, like I said, guys, I don't think people realize how bad this could get. This could get very bad. And with everything that I just saw and everything that I'm seeing right now, it's
more of a
gonna go
At
hot.
first, it was just kind of a people sort of taking in the scene, taking in the moment. Now it's clearly kind of turning into a rally of sorts in something that people are very clearly passionate about.
And Ryan, I know from a distance it's hard to tell. Blocking the streets and doing crowd control in a distance, is that Minneapolis police? Can you tell?
Okay, I have the other angle. Okay, so look at the other angle here. This other angle. Let me just turn this down really quick. Okay, this is the other angle, so you can see it from across the street. Just watch this. Okay, so the guy that gets shot is right. He's right there. He's got the camera in his hand right here. That's him. This guy right here with the camera. This is the guy that gets shot. This guy right here is the guy that gets shot. Now watch. Just keep an eye on him. He went beyond the camera view, so you can't. Okay, that's him. He's directing traffic. He's directing traffic. That's all he's doing is directing traffic. He's got a camera in his hand. He's just trying to be helpful. He's got a camera in his hand, and he sees an ICE agent come up to push a woman. There's a woman right there. Watch what happens. So this woman, this ICE agent comes up, pushes this woman down. He gets pepper sprayed for having said something to the ICE agent for doing that. All he's doing is holding on to the woman, and he's getting pepper sprayed even more and more. He's not even doing anything to the ICE agents at all. They grab him and they start beating him. They grab him out of the crowd. Now, how is that what they're saying? They said that this guy came out with loaded magazines to do harm to the ICE agents. This is what they said. Without an investigation, without anything, they said this guy came with loaded weapon, with a whole bunch of magazines to go do harm to federal agents. But that's not what it looks like to me. It looks like they just grabbed him, took him down because he was trying to help somebody, and then they started beating him up after they pepper sprayed him. They realized he had a gun because he has a legal permit to carry. He has a legal permit to carry. He probably told them, "Hey, I have a gun." You have to tell police officers if you ever get pulled over and you have a concealed carry, you have to let the police officer know that you have a weapon. That's just legally what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to let them know you have a gun, because you don't want them to freak out if they see a gun on you or something. And then, the police don't like having surprises, right? So you tell them, "Hey, I have a legal right to carry a firearm, and I have one on me." Right? So you let them know. So maybe he let them know that he had a firearm, and that's when the guy came around. This guy with the coat took his firearm out of his belt, and then it was right after they took the firearm out of his belt, and the ICE agent ran away with his gun. You can see that in the other footage. He takes his gun and he runs. After he takes the gun away is when you hear the shots ring out, where they start shooting him. So it could have been that they were afraid. It could have been that they panicked. It could have been that they made a mistake. It could have been that they did it on purpose. I mean, who knows? Who knows what really happened? I don't want to tend to believe that they just cold-blooded executed the guy. My personal thought is they probably panicked, or they're highly aggressive. These agents look highly aggressive. They just basically just shot him. I mean, and he didn't have a gun at that time. You can see from the other footage, before those shots ring out, he was disarmed. And they're still shooting him while he's on the ground. They did like a total of 9 shots. A total of 9 shots. Just so sad. Yeah, that's not going to go over well. He was from what I understand, he was like a nurse or something. He was a nurse. He was an ICU nurse. The guy was an ICU nurse. He's not, the dude is not. Oh, man, this is just so bad. So bad on so many levels. All right, so let's just go back over to current footage, right? What's going on here?
Says there will be a state and a local investigation, and that but how they're gathering evidence, a lot of it's through these videos that people are taking and sharing, and that's how we're getting information as well.
And in terms of how that investigation will happen when the scene was abandoned, they say for safety reasons. We'll hear more about that during that press conference with the BCA. Again, this happening around 9 this morning, and since then, the community has responded with heartbreak, with anger, with confusion. And at the scene there, we are starting to see more of a rally tone pick up. We've also heard activities that were supposed to take place this weekend, some pretty big ones being canceled. The 2 p.m. Daytime Carnival Parade was canceled. We're finding out that Twins Fest will be concluding at 4 p.m. today. The Timberwolves home game has been postponed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, postponed.
So people are responding in kind to be respectful, but also wanting to keep the peace and make sure it stays calm.
Right. Again, what you're looking at there is this is video from earlier today. This is 26th and Nicollet in South Minneapolis, just south of downtown. This is a busy area, lots of restaurants, and that's where federal agents say they were conducting a targeted arrest when this confrontation happened. It led to a man being shot. Again, the 3rd time federal agents have shot somebody in Minneapolis in the last 3 weeks. 2 of them deadly now, and again, we're hearing
from Greg Bovino with Border Patrol that he says we would not be seeing these situations happen if they were getting the level of cooperation from the state that they say they have been asking for.
And the state says they are willing to cooperate, and they often assist the feds in arresting violent criminals. They say they arrest violent offenders every day. And so that's nothing new from them. But I mean, just as an observer, there's no cooperation.
There's no cooperation, and it's hard to understand who is talking to whom. We heard from the governor that he did speak with the administration. He says he spoke with the chief of staff, Susie Wiles. He says he's had 2 phone conversations, and that he reiterated, wants ICE out. And we're at a standstill because the president has said ICE will be conducting federal operations in Minnesota.
And then the National Guard is staged, and now we know are actively assisting Hennepin County in its responsibilities here, and that is strictly public safety.
And at the request of Hennepin County.
At the request of Hennepin County Sheriff DeWanna Witt today, but that's strictly public safety. The video from earlier, those are State Patrol. You can see the State Patrol patch, but most notably, they're wearing the bright green jackets to identify them as being local law enforcement. And we're told that the National Guard members will also be wearing the green vests or the green jackets that you see here again to distinguish them from the federal agents.
And for our viewers, it might be a little bit confusing because we're telling them that law enforcement left the scene for safety reasons, both state and federal, but we're showing these videos. Kevin, you were here earlier than I was. Explain the timeline of this shooting happened at 9, but we're also seeing video of chemical irritants, and then we're told that law enforcement left. What was the timeline of that?
So 9:05, the shooting happens at 26th and Nicollet. Quickly, there was a crowd around. According to Greg Bovino, several hundred people surrounded these agents while they were on a targeted operation, and that's when this 37-year-old Alex Preddy was shot when, according to Bovino, he approached the agents with a 9mm handgun. There's questions of whether he actually showed that gun. Bovino was asked that, and he says there will be an investigation. He was asked a second time, well, was Preddy, brandishing the gun? He did not answer that as well. It said there will be an investigation.
And it's very difficult to see on any video.
Right. So after that happened, then there's already hundreds of people at this scene. And word spread quickly, and that's when a large group of protesters showed up, and they boxed the federal agents in at this intersection. And that's when we started to see the tear gas, chemical irritants being deployed into the crowd. And then over a series of an hour or two, they would use the chemical irritants. The crowd would move back. Feds would push back to their original location. Crowd would come back, and that repeated itself over and over this morning. We showed you video of our Eric Rasmussen getting caught up in that. And then demonstrators started blocking the streets. They pulled to the north of 26th and Nicollet, which would be 25th. They pulled dumpsters out of the alleys and blocked the streets. And now they've got fencing up. And we also heard from
We actually have video that we'd like to get to right now that shows what happened.
I believe this shows more of what led up. So let's take a close look at this.
It's about 2 minutes long, we're told. Stick with it.
Go. What the f is wrong with you? The people. What the f is wrong with you? Honestly.
horrifying to watch.
All right, they're saying that the shots, the guy that first shoots is an ICE agent. So that's really what happens. The ICE agent shoots first. After the gun has been taken off of his person, then he shoots. So, and then all the other ICE agents shoot after that. So it's pretty bad.
Right. Seen video showing what happened before that shooting. You heard the shots fired. Before shots are fired, there's a struggle.
Mm-hmm. We saw an ICE agent come over and push someone down in a backpack into the snowbank. Other observers, demonstrators, amid all the whistles and the car horns. And then we hear somebody yell, "Gun, gun, gun." Now, whether that man, we've now learned, is 37-year-old Alex Preddy, had the gun in his hand, or maybe it was in a holster on his belt or inside of his jacket where people carry. We don't know, but we heard gun, 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 and then 9 or 10 shots fired there. That shows a lot more of.
It shows a lot more about the chaos that was taking place beforehand. And I want to be honest, we all saw that for the first time. I don't know what I'm seeing. I have no idea what I'm seeing. These scenes are so chaotic. We will hear what Drew Evans with the BCA has to say about this video and what led up to it. In about 11 minutes, starting at 3 o'clock, we'll have that press conference.
That's DPS headquarters there where Drew Evans is going to speak, we're told, at the top of the hour. Let's go to our Eric Rasmussen, who has been on scene all morning to get his perspective on what's happening. Eric, we just watched a longer video showing us more of what led up to that. And I'm sure as people start seeing that, emotions are going to run high. What's going on behind you there right now? Is a fire started?
Yes. You know, throughout our coverage this morning, there's been a lot to talk about. We haven't had a chance to just mention, as you all probably know, how brutally cold it is out here. And people have been out here for hours and hours now. You can see over here, they've got some firewood and they've started a fire in a barrel here. It really just people standing around to get warm.
Ice out!
And
Ice out!
I don't need to tell you that, it is quieted down in this section right here. They're speaking up now because we're live with you here on TV. But people have been coming and going throughout the morning. Behind me is the scene where the shooting actually happened. If you look over here, they've set up a huge barrier on Nicollet here at 27th. Where they blocked off the road. We've seen in a couple of places. My colleague Ryan Raish talking about it down here on the other side of Nicollet. And to give you some additional perspective about the lay of the land here this afternoon, as I look straight down Nicollet towards 28th, you do have a small police presence with some typical yellow crime scene tape blocking off that section of Nicollet. But again, people freely coming and going all day long here. You see a crowd making its way back down this way from 26th and 25th. No sign of people leaving anytime soon. And we're going to be here too, and we're going to keep you updated on what we see.
Shut up!
Eric Rasmussen there near the scene, and the tone is very similar where Ryan Raish is, a couple blocks away. It's really turned into people are showing up, they're angry, they're peaceful, but it is more of a rally feel.
Yeah, the biggest development I think in the last few minutes here is this video. You could see there from that live shot there that's Ryan Raish.
Chairs in the middle of the street. They're setting up a bit of a memorial of sorts. We could see people standing on it. I'm not exactly sure what they're standing on, but they have put stuff in the middle of the road. But the big development right now is we just saw that
we just saw this video. Again, we're expecting to hear from the BCA about their plans moving forward now. At the top of the hour, we'll bring that to you live. But can we to make an audible from the desk, can we watch that video one more time and let's listen.
Go. What the f is wrong with you? People, what the is wrong with you? Honestly. Did you just do? What the
Okay, that's really tough to watch.
It
We
is.
apologize for the rough language. We've tried to edit some of it out.
And this video will be slowed down. It will be looked at from every angle to figure out when they hit the ground, whose hands are where. We're told there was a gun. And this is what BCA is going to be looking at, including Border Patrol.
It appeared that the feds got out of a vehicle and approached some demonstrators there, though. And as they were on the ground, and that on the ground we know is 37-year-old Alex Preddy,
We're told an ICU nurse from his parents.
who did have a legal permit to carry. You heard the feds say gun, gun, gun. We see one draw and start firing, and we counted 9 or 10 shots. That is
That's a
Alex
picture
Preddy
of
there, an
Alex
ICU nurse. We're not sure where he's employed. It's from Veterans Affairs. You notice the credit on the right hand of the screen there.
Wow.
So whether that means he works as an ICU nurse at the VA, we do not know that, but the attribution and credit for that photograph is coming from Veterans Affairs right now.
The scene, incredibly chaotic. And one thing we've heard from federal law enforcement is that not only have they said they want more information about where the people in the country illegally are, but they've said that they believe they should have assistance at scenes to make sure that they're safe.
Well,
And we've been told they're not going to get that at the state level, but you can just see how chaotic that is. How many officers are there in the middle of what they say was an attempt to apprehend someone who was in the country illegally?
and now you can see barricades have been set up across Nicollet. You see a dumpster, you see a big section of fence. And our reporters on the scene saying it's relatively calm now, more of an atmosphere of a rally, but there is great heartbreak. I mean, a man was killed today in South Minneapolis.
And,
There,
we've seen it on camera.
and we've seen it on camera.
The second time
It's-
now.
Right.
And it is.
We can't,
It's
and that man,
heartbreaking.
37-year-old Alex Preddy, as identified by his parents, an ICU nurse, his mom and dad have lost a son. And this is just not the way things should be. And we're just watching this because we want to make sure everybody is safe. And we're telling you what's going on. Obviously, this is not a part of Nicollet Avenue you want to go to. This is having a wider impact already. The parade this afternoon for the Winter Carnival in St. Paul was canceled. The Twins Fest, they're cutting that off early this afternoon. The Timberwolves game tonight has been canceled and I'm sure will be rescheduled. So this is having an impact, and the immediate impact right now is that a man is dead after being shot by ICE agents this morning at just after 9 o'clock. And the community is reacting with anger and emotion. We've seen people crying in the streets. We've seen people praying at the crime scene where Alex Preddy was shot today. Just all kinds of emotions happening right now. The governor saying he talked to the White House chief of staff twice today, did not get through to the president. And the president hasn't said it much on...
It's hard to, it's hard to know who
But
exactly.
you said J.D. Vance did post,
Within
right?
the last hour, J.D. Vance posted and reiterated what the administration is saying is that they need more coordination with the state.
I'm just trying to
And,
see.
and it's so difficult with these videos, as we saw with the Renee Good shooting, is that people are looking at this video and they're seeing sometimes what they want to see. Sometimes you can't really tell what you're seeing. But this is all we have right now.
So we see agents. And I don't know why they would have.
We don't know what they see.
And it appears Preddy came in to assist somebody who had been pushed down.
People,
Throughout the morning, we've been talking to people at the scene, and we actually talked to our Camaria Bray spoke with a mother who went to the scene because she knew her daughter lived in the area and that her daughter would want to be there to see what happened for herself. The mother went to the scene because she was so worried about her child in the aftermath of this, being there at the scene. And we heard from the governor and we heard from other state leaders that they know many people are upset and want to protest, but everyone just wants calm also and wants people to be safe. So,
and that's true. The feds have been calling for calm. State and local leaders are calling for calm, but that's not what we're getting. What we are getting is people appear to be heeding requests from the police chief and the mayor not to destroy our city, is what Mayor Fry said and the police chief O'Hara said. And people appear to be doing that right now, other than taking some furniture out of restaurants or something to build barricades. But as Chief O'Hara pointed out, that is an unlawful assembly right now at 26th and Nicollet in South Minneapolis. So the people are there illegally, but the good news is, and our Eric Rasmussen pointed this out, is that people appear to be not confronting local authorities.
right. We care about this community terribly. We care about our neighbors and our family. And we heard from that mom who was at the scene worried about her daughter. And you can't help but reiterate that emotions are high and people don't quite know what to do with that. But at this point, there are federal agents in our state, and if you put your hands on them, it's a very dangerous thing to do.
Or obstruct what they're trying to do, that's when you can legally be arrested. It's the top of the hour. It's 3 o'clock. We are bringing you continuing live coverage of breaking news in South Minneapolis, where a man was shot by federal agents this morning while they were conducting a targeted operation, they say, to remove a man who was in the country illegally with a criminal record. The BCA is going to speak and update us about their plans coming up, and that's what you see on the right. We expect that to start any moment, and we will bring that to you live. The interpreter's coming. Okay, here's BCA Superintendent Drew Evans. Let's listen.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Drew Evans, and I am the Superintendent of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. The public in the state of Minnesota expects that when a person is killed in one of our communities, an independent, thorough, and transparent investigation is conducted into that incident to fully understand what occurred when any law enforcement authority is involved in a deadly force encounter. Minnesotans not only expect this, but they deserve this. That's what our BCA Force Investigations Unit does. For years now, our independent unit has investigated the majority of use of deadly force incidents in our state. That's true for entities like the BCA, and it's common practice across the United States. That includes incidents involving federal officers and other high-profile incidents like have occurred in the city of Minneapolis and across our state, not only in recent months, but in recent years. Our highly trained independent team of investigators, crime scene personnel, are experts at conducting these types of investigations. This is all they do. We do not make decisions about guilt or innocent, but we compile the facts of the incident for review by proper prosecutorial authorities, both at the state and federal levels. This morning, I was in contact with the Minneapolis Police Department after the incident that you're all familiar with now. They requested our Force Investigations Unit respond to the scene and conduct such an independent investigation as we have in other recent incidents in the city of Minneapolis. What occurred was our team responded to the scene, and I was in contact with federal authorities to inform them that that was going to occur and that we were responding to the scene in Minneapolis. When our team arrived, they were blocked by federal agents with the Department of Homeland Security from accessing the scene. We worked with them and we're in contact with the FBI, trying to attempt to access the scene so we can gather evidence to understand what occurred and work through this process. Our team also secured a search warrant for the scene, which is an unusual move in a public area like that, but we did that attempting to have judicial approval to enter this scene to gather evidence. We were once again blocked by federal authorities to go in and do that scene examination. We have a long history of working side by side with the Federal Bureau of Investigation on all types of cases. That's true in other high-profile incidents that you've seen in officer-involved shootings, and that remains the case that we do and will be going forward. They're excellent partners to us as an organization, but unfortunately, in these recent events, others outside of the state are making decisions that that does not occur. So we will continue to investigate this case and others that we have recently been involved with, but I would be remiss if I didn't state that it will be difficult to obtain all of the evidence and information contained without cooperation. It is my understanding at this time that this case is now being led by the Department of Homeland Security Investigations as an investigation into this matter, and not the FBI leading that at this point in time. As the FBI gathered information and conducted a crime scene evaluation, they left. After they left, we were attempting to move in to do our own scene examination once we can access the scene, but federal agents that cleared the scene, as was previously said, the state and local police that were on scene from the beginning of this, providing protection of that scene alongside federal agents trying to allow us to do our work, were unable to hold that scene, and it got overrun with protesters in the area, and we were not able to re-examine that scene. I'm aware, and our team is aware, of the videos that you've seen, and we would welcome additional information provided to our team going forward that will continue a full investigation to the best of our ability with what we have, and we will do that as we always have, fairly independently in that process and transparently as we do in every investigation, and provide that without recommendation to the county attorney's office for review. You know, we're in uncharted territory here. It's been a long-standing understanding both within our state and across the country that entities like the BCA that conduct 80+% of officer-involved shooting investigations across the United States are asked to do these investigations of federal agents involved in officer-involved shootings. There certainly can be a new process going forward if the federal government would like to do that and federal agencies, but that has not been a discussion that's been had so that we can provide clear understanding to citizens to understand what that process will be. And so we will continue to investigate this case. We welcome cooperation. I'd continue to ask that we provided access to any information that's necessary to do a complete investigation, and that we want to work together with all of our federal partners so that we can really understand what occurs in any of these cases. An officer-involved shooting is an incredibly complex incident, regardless of the video that you see. And the only way to really truly understand what occurred is to have a full investigation of the matter so that we can really understand what we all see that happens in a very short period of time that is often incredibly complex and requires a very thorough and large investigation to really understand what occurs in those very few moments that we often see. We'll continue to pursue partnerships with our federal partners in these investigations and others going forward, as it's clear to us and it's clear to all of us in Minnesota that we at the state and local level have an expectation when something happens in our communities that an investigation not only is done by our federal partners, but also by state and locals into various incidents as we see them. The Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and our Force Investigations Unit is committed to continuing to work on these sorts of incidents and conduct those independent investigations at the request of our local partners. Whenever that happens, Minnesotans deserve that so that they can fully understand what occurred in each and every one of these incidents, so they can really have an understanding of what occurred each time something happens in our communities. With that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
So to be clear, you said you got a signed judicial warrant to gain access and were still denied by federal agents?
Yes, that's accurate. The question was, we had a signed warrant and we were still denied access to the scene. That's accurate, correct.
How uncharted is that? And have you had any contact? You said you understand DHS is leading now. Have you had contact since then And is there any reason to believe that there is now a new way forward?
Yeah, the question was, have I had any contact since it's my understanding DHS is running this investigation? I attempted to contact the individual that I was told was the overall commander at the scene, and I have not received a call back from them. We will continue to work together to gather that and make that contact and understand their process, but we have not had contact yet today.
How much investigative work were agents able to do at the scene then when they did get access?
We were not able to do really any work at the scene once we had access because it was quickly overrun and overtaken. That being said, we have been out talking to witnesses, gathering information, gathering various video, and we'll continue to do that work. You saw in the recent shooting in North Minneapolis, if and when it's prudent and we need to, we can always return at a different time if there's relevant evidence.
Ernesto with the New York Times. Do you know the identity of the federal agents who were involved in the shooting?
The question is, do we know the identity of the federal agents involved in the shooting? Not only on this case, but the other two that have happened, the federal entity, Department of Homeland Security in particular, does not provide us that information. They have not provided us that information in this case as well.
Superintendent, how will you ensure yes, Brittany Erman, Channel 5, how will you be able to ensure a thorough and fair investigation if they weren't able to collect evidence the day that the shooting happened?
Yeah. So the question is, how do we ensure a thorough investigation if we weren't provided access to the information? It's complicated. You know, that's why the long history of jointly working investigations when the federal entities conduct their own investigation is really important. And we have a long established process of doing that, and we'd welcome that now, or we'd welcome parallel investigations where they share information with us. And to be clear, the BCA will share everything we obtain in our investigation with them. To say that we can do this in the manner that our team normally does, which is a very strict and established protocol, that obviously is disrupted. When we don't have access to the crime scene, we don't have the ability to map the scenes that we normally would in that process. So it will be compromised in some level of getting all of that. The hope is that we'll use all the different tools available to take different paths to do the best that we can with the information that we do have.
You took that step preemptively, knowing that perhaps you might be denied, and then secondly, can you share what agents were told on the scene by DHS as the reason that they were not allowed to access, or that your agents weren't allowed to access?
So the question was about the warrant and then access to the scene. We took the step of getting the search warrant because we were denied access to the scene. So we thought that we'd be able to get access to the scene, much like we would anywhere else, by having an independent judge agree that we have probable cause to investigate the incident at the scene. That was provided the information to the Department of Homeland Security, and they said that this was a scene and matter being investigated by the federal government, and they would not allow us physical access to the scene.
So you arrived at the scene, you were denied, you go to a judge, ask for a warrant, so Judge Grant said warrant, you show up with that, and you still denied.
That's accurate. We were denied after we provided information we had a warrant. Please.
I'm not trying to be glib here. Has local law enforcement lost the ability to pursue the rule of law against these federal officers? I'm just trying to understand, what does that mean for this operation?
Yeah, the question was about, has local law enforcement lost the ability for the rule of law? I will tell you that I and other law enforcement leaders continue to have discussions about this. It is important for people to understand just across Minnesota that there are two different, sets of illegal entities in the United States that conduct law enforcement operations: state and local, and federal, and then tribal and territorial. And normally, and under normal circumstances, we work hand in hand in partnership on a variety of different criminal investigations. Each and every day, BCA agents and local law enforcement across Minnesota are conducting violent crime investigations, drug investigations, human trafficking. We work together with the federal government all of the time. This is a situation where we're in a different place for a variety of reasons when it comes to this, and we need to find a path forward. You've heard various people say that we need to look to turn the temperature down. I look to turn the temperature down, not only because of a situation that all of us want to be in across the state of Minnesota to be safe in our homes and communities each and every day, but importantly, so that we aren't in a position where there is, a standoff between local, state, and federal law enforcement authorities. We have a long history of working together in partnership, and we need to keep in mind that we're all safer, we're all better together when we can do that collectively together.
One more at the far end, and then one more after that.
Mary Murphy with the Farm News Service. Are you able to confirm the identity of the man who was fatally shot, and then also can you confirm the whereabouts of the officers who were involved in the shooting?
The questions are, can I confirm the identity? I'm aware of what's being reported. That's who we believe the individual to be, but the medical examiner will be the one to officially identify them, or at least provide us permission to do that. The second part of the question was, do we know the location of the officers involved? And the answer is, I do not know.
One more. Superintendent, one more for media. Question about past situations you guys have dealt with on this. Have you ever had a situation where you guys denying access to the scene like this? Under what circumstances have those happened in the past?
So the question was, have I ever had a situation where federal authorities denied access to a scene? Not in my, 20 plus years at the BCA and a situation like that. There's certainly investigations for, national security and sensitive reasons we wouldn't have a line of sight into, nor would it be our position to ask for access to information in those particular instances. In instances where there's really concurrent federal and state jurisdiction over a matter, I'm not aware of an instance where that's ever happened. So
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, so just my thoughts on some of the things that are happening here. Really quickly, just to add my 2 cents, not that it really means anything or matters, but the best, and I always tell people this, that, with all the politics and the spiritual demonic, evil that seems to be flooding in to society and to the heart, so many people are blind on both sides. And I even think that, people that feel they're neutral are blind. Everybody's got some blindness, and I think this is where we go back to our belief of, whether or not we're right in the eyes of God. Do we really see, are we really peacemakers? Are we really people that are trying to bring change that is eternal to people's lives in the here and now? Is that really our mission, is to be a messenger for God, right? Or are we a political pundit? Are we here to advocate some kind of political stance that's going to, have ultimate conflict? Jesus said very clearly, if my servants, if I was a king, then would my servants fight? He wasn't a king. He didn't come for a political reason. They asked him, are you here for an uprising? Are you here to overthrow the king? Are you here for some kind of, coup? Are you a king? Are you some political movement? And Jesus said, no. If I was, then my servants would fight. They would not allow me to be taken. I would not give myself up as a sacrifice and give myself into your hands. Okay, there was no political fight in him. He wasn't there to advocate for a political cause. Jesus was giving a message that was eternal beyond space and time and space, and the current political situation and or religious situation for that matter, because religion is very political as well. People kill over religion. So what we're seeing happening in America right now is just the escalation of what the Bible says would happen in the last days. Ethnic group against ethnic group, nation rising against nation. If you look at the actual word for that in the original language, it says ethnos against ethnos. In the last days, ethnos would rise against ethnos. That means ethnic groups, right? That's the key word or the root word for ethnic groups. So you're going to see this ethnic tension. And a lot of that has to do with racial and or regional tensions of different groups or tribalism. Politics, you're going to see that begin to escalate, where you start to see these conflicts begin all over the world, but it's going to happen especially at flashpoints like what I think is America's role in leading the world, but it's also going to escalate to a point where there is a flashpoint that causes chaos, that brings about that new order, right? That's what Trump is doing. He's bringing in a new order. But the chaos must precede. The chaos must happen. And this is why we've predicted all of these things that were to come way in advance, because we know the script. We understand what the Bible teaches about the ushering in of this new beast kingdom and how it's going to be done. And they say chaos magic. You can say it's chaos magic. Anytime you've seen Trump in office, haven't you seen chaos, right? There's always chaos, but it's a managed chaos. It's a purposeful chaos. It's a chaos that brings a new order. And it's a chaos that ultimately turns the script in a way that, you know, it decimates and destroys those who oppose that ultimate implementation of that new order. And that new order is exactly what everyone is saying Trump is doing. He's bringing in and ushering in a new order. He's bringing in a new UN. The UN is now obsolete. The Board of Peace and the chairman of the Board of Peace, who is Donald Trump, is now the new UN. That's why all the leaders of the world are gathering under this banner and paying for a piece of the land on top of that, as the Bible says would happen. Trump is fulfilling all of these things right now. So to try to resist, you know, this is futile. To get involved in the politics and try to resist socially or, you know, civically and or even religiously, it's an effort and what's the word I'm thinking of? It's a exercise in futility. You're not going to accomplish anything. The only thing that you can really do at this point is really get your heart right, pray, ask God to use you to influence people for an eternal reward here in this earth. You can get a lot of benefit from just knowing, serving, trusting, and bettering your own life and trying to be a light to those who are, you know, trying to suck you into this whole political fray. Because really, it's only going to get worse. There's going to be probably, the reason I'm even streaming this is just to show people that this is where the world is going. It's going into martial law. It's going into a time of great upheaval. And there's going to be great amounts of tribalism. People are going to gravitate toward a side. They're going to look for protection from their brand of, you know, of strongman, whatever strongman that they're going to feel is going to protect them. And there's probably going to be, you know, upheaval politically, and wars are going to be probably facilitating that chaos within. Wars from without and wars from within. And what Dmitry Duduman said is that when the wars from within begin to escalate, you see the protests begin within America. That's when America is sneak attacked. If you take, you know, prophecy to heart, and if you believe that, you know, you test different predictions of people that have made, you know, given perspectives of what they believe to be the future, you might want to take Dmitry Duduman's prophecy to heart, because it looks like a lot of that's coming to pass. He said when you see these protests begin to proliferate, he said it would start in the middle of the nation, and it would be a communist type thing that would begin it, would escalate, and then it would spread all over the whole of the nation. And it would be at a time when we're being threatened by Russia and China. And at a certain point, when we're looking internal, the government is looking at what's happening internally, is when this attack takes place. So I would just say, make sure your house is in order in every way. Minnesota is Minnesota considered the center of the country? Let's see on a map what it looks like here. I'll say Minnesota. It's pretty much the center. If you were to say the center, it would be probably right below Minnesota to the left, but it's pretty close to the center of the country. Nebraska is actually kind of the center of the United States, but it's right next to Nebraska, Minnesota. You could say it's kind of lined up right in the middle, if you were to say that. So that would be very similar to what Dmitry Duduman's prophecy states, but just be aware. Be aware of the signs of the times that we're in. This is kind of odd. You know what this reminds me of? Well, this is very odd. Look at this. I believe this is Minnesota's capital. Is this the capital of Minnesota where this rooster is? What do you think of that? What does that remind you of? What does this remind you of? Anybody have any thoughts on this rooster on this pedestal? Tell me what this reminds you of. Anybody? Think about this. No, well, kind of like Denver, because Denver has that blue Mustang. Yeah, it's a kind of a bluish color Mustang. But what else does it remind you of? Tell me if you remember. If anybody else can remember, what does this remind you of? Let's see if I can find somebody that remembers. It is really kind of reminiscent of the blue Mustang in Denver. That is true, because I did think of that too, the color. But it also reminds me of something else. Very, very, yes. Well, God first, you're kind of getting close, but you didn't actually say it correct. Anybody else? Does anybody else remember what this reminds you of? I'll show you. Some of you guys may remember this. See if anybody figured it out yet. I'm still looking to see if anybody figured it out. Nope, nobody's figured it out. I'm gonna pull it up here just for you in a minute here. How many of you guys remember this? Anybody getting the picture here? I don't want to play it because I don't want to get copyright. Remember this? Remember that? Okay, well, what about this one here? Remember this? This was 10 months ago. This one right here. You remember how creepy this was? Just look at. I'm just going to play this. Remember this, and this is all AI too, because the AI. Remember, she's like they're all like possessed, and they're going to some beat. They're like, remember the chickens in the rearview mirror. Remember that, and everything's like blinking and going all crazy. It's like everything like it's totally demonic, supercharged with the devil's thing there. You got the devil sign there, supercharge, and you got chickens running out there. And then remember this part here. See, it says nobody knows what to believe in anymore, right? Nobody knows what to believe in. Man marries AI. Everything is fake. Everything is fake. We can't believe anything that we see now. Everything looks like it's just absolutely fake. People are possessed walking down the street. Possessed by AI. It's like, this reminds me of like, Thriller, Michael Jackson Thriller and the demon zombies. They're just like completely possessed by the injections have finally activated in their bodies, and they're now fully possessed. And then they finally get to the place where they're all going. Where are they all going? They're all possessed. They're all going somewhere. Where are they going? Oh, they're worshiping a rooster. Oh, look at this. Wow, the rooster. Let's worship the rooster. Oh, look at that. The rooster's up on a little pedestal. Pedestal rises up. Oh, the rooster's just getting all kinds of glory. The glory of the rooster. Believe in chicken. The golden egg. The generation of the golden dawn. Remember, I told everybody, the golden eggs. Chickens are going to be laying golden eggs. Get your chickens, because the chickens is a sign. Chickens are the sign. Remember I told you all that? Chickens are the sign. Golden eggs. The chicken and the rooster on the pedestal. This is Minnesota. Minnesota's pedestal for the rooster. Cock-a-doodle-doo. What does the rooster symbolize anyway? Pride, arrogance. All right, they're talking again here. Hold on. Let's see. Let's go ahead and go back.
And violence. We've seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again. But in contrast to that, on these frozen streets, what you witnessed yesterday was the best of Minnesotans, peacefully exercising their First Amendment rights. And I attended in the church basement hundreds of Minnesotans from all faith packing care packages for families that have been ripped apart. Despite the horrific acts by this federal government, Minnesotans are standing up for the rule of law. They're protesting loudly and urgently, but peacefully. It must stay that way, Minnesota.
Governor went on to say, after he made those comments, that the Minnesota justice system will have the last word. He says there will be a state and local investigation. The governor says, quote,
all right, guys, so I think we're going to cut the stream here. I think we should just cut it, and then we'll come back with some more coverage of whatever is coming down the pike. I think I'm just going to get on
a log of evidence. They can't get much out of the crime scene, but they're talking with people.
Other topics.
There are a
In
lot
fact, I
of
think
videos
that
out
one of the main things
the governor
that's
said
affecting the whole country right now is the weather.
Prosecution
But I
against
do
these
believe
federal
that.
agents.
Oops, I got this thing on here. I do believe that what's coming is going to be pretty chaotic. Do you want to just leave this on, or do you want me to shut it off? I'm thinking of this guy right here. Yeah, this is the guy that was killed. We can come back a little bit later and do some more coverage of everything and maybe do a little report. I probably should be getting back to doing some other things here before it gets too late. And let me see here. Yeah, Chick